Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Monday, June 9th. Folks, we are here. We are back in the studio. We did the Future show last night. That was a fun one. It was a long one. And we are back for the Market Open. It has been a week since we've been in the studio, so I'm very excited to be back in the studio and to be here 2 times a day, as always. Market Open, Market Close. We got a lot of news headlines already in the morning that I'm looking at just now that are going to be pretty important as we get throughout the day. In general, we got a pretty green pre-market. I know Robinhood is down 3% right here, but Robinhood was at $70 last night. It's at 72. Palantir is at like 127. So, I mean, overall, we do have some green that's happening right now. Nvidia is up. A lot of these different stocks are up. However, we've got a ton of macro data this week, including CPI and PPI, that is kind of basically determine the trajectory of what's going on. Tesla right now in the pre-market, Tesla was at 294 last night. I think that one's a little down if I'm not wrong. S&P's at 6,000. Tesla is 290, so basically unchanged. I mean, not that big of a deal. And Nvidia actually 143.49. So Nvidia having some more fun as that one is a bit green in the pre-markets. Palantir right here, 127.48. Tessie 290. Robin at 72.40. Goog's actually doing okay, 174. Amazon 215 basically. SoFi 1443. That one's actually pretty green. Elf right here 118.75. Enphase is down a little bit. Or Enphase is green a little bit. PayPal 73.81. And then you got Palantir right here 127.45. Nvidia 123 or 143.49. We got a lot of different headlines today that we're going to be talking about. A bunch of stuff happening already in the pre-markets. I know a lot of you guys in the chat are spamming Grab. Rocket Lab right here 30.46. And we'll talk about it. Grab you would think would be down a lot more based on the news. Apparently, the headline on Grab is that they put out a statement saying they're not trying to buy GoTo. They are not trying to buy GoTo. That's what they put out this morning. I don't know if I believe it. We'll see it if it's true. I mean, it's easier to get a deal done if the world isn't thinking that you're going to get the deal done, just for a lot of different reasons. They said in a statement, the parties are not involved in any discussions at this time, and Grab has not entered into any definitive agreements. Grab said in a statement Monday, Indonesia continues to be an important country in serving our mission as we continue to serve our Indonesian customers, driver, and merchant partners. Maybe. I mean, companies tend to say this to try to get the media off their back and let them just work and negotiate. I think we have enough evidence that proves that they are definitely in talks. So for them to say at this time they don't have definitive agreements, maybe. But maybe they're actually just not trying to buy them, and maybe they have a better use of their capital, which as a shareholder, I would say, okay, you guys didn't buy back a single share for the past 5 months. I mean, what are you guys doing with that capital, right? And I think this Q2 is going to be very telling if they don't buy back their stock again, to be like, okay, like obviously you need every penny for something, and I'm curious what that something is, even if you tell us it's not an acquisition. Because in reality, I feel like it would be more for an acquisition or not. But we'll dive deeper into it. We'll see what's going on. That headline, again, I would think Grab would be down a lot more on that news, but Grab's basically flat at 516. If the only reason it pumped was because of the GoTo acquisition rumors, and now it's like not happening, theoretically, you would think it would go down maybe when the market opens, but that's currently not what we're seeing in the pre-markets. Nvidia right here, 143.53. Tessie, 289. Robin at 72.35. Palantir, 127.40. Bitcoin, I believe, got to 107 last night. Yeah, there you go, 107.7. So Bitcoin getting some love right here. And the S&P in the pre-markets basically at 600, which is nice to see as well. So that's what we got going on in the pre-markets. Bunch of other different headlines, bunch of other macro stuff. We will get into it as soon as we begin. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Zocold, what's up? Cactus, what's up? Nate Hood, mini recovery. Yeah, a little bit. Again, we did not get into the S&P, which sucked. And all of us were there on Friday trying to figure out if we did get in. The worst part about this, I was talking about this last night, is the S&P 500 committee didn't even put out a press release saying that they weren't doing a rebalance. First time they didn't do a rebalance for 3 years, since 2022, which is just insane to me. I mean, I could not believe that was the case. And it was a hell of an experience on Friday, but they didn't have to get in. I just thought some companies would get in, and no one got in. On 400, 600, 500, there was no rebalance across the board, which is a bit ridiculous. Circle's up 16% in the pre-markets. My goodness. Congrats to anyone who got in on this one. I mean, this was a good one. This was a freaking good one. 124.88 right now in the pre-markets, currently on Circle. And then Nebius, this one in the pre-markets, this was at like 50 last night, right? This one is at 50.29. The CEO tweeted that we've got some exciting news updates coming. GTC in Europe is happening. GTC in Paris, and Jensen's going to be there. a lot of these AI data center companies might be revealing some new news, and obviously that could be a catalyst for these stocks as we get into the latter half of the year as well. All right, cool. Let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Again, bunch of different headlines that we're looking at. We got Kevin Hasset, who's talking this morning, so I think we should switch to him and see what he has to say. The big thing about today, June 9th, is that China and the United States are meeting for their second trade talk. That is happening probably right now in London, and that trade talk is going to be very, very important. Let's see what Mr. Kevin Hasset has to say about this, if that's going to lead us to any progress, and when we're going to get any updates on that, as I believe that's going to probably be the core thing that dominates the rest of the week.
I guess it was kind of bad news that things are stalled. We weren't getting anywhere. Then we heard President Trump say, President Xi's tough, but I'm going to talk to him. Then they spoke and seemed to indicate that there was some progress made with what we just mentioned, the rare earth and the minerals.
Sure.
Thing. Is that where we are right now? Was it actual progress that can be put into an agreement?
Oh, absolutely. You know, the president talked with President Xi for more than an hour. They went into many topics and also talked about the fact that in Geneva, we had agreed to lower tariffs on them, and they had agreed to release the magnets and rare earths that we need throughout the economy. And they were kind of releasing them, but it was going a lot slower than some companies believed was optimal. And when we reached out to them again, we had another talk. And President Trump, being President Trump and a New Yorker, basically said, I want to meet again, in the next few days, and I want a handshake that you promise you're going to release these things. And so really the purpose of the meeting today is to make sure that they're serious, but to literally get handshakes from Scott and Howard and Jameson, our three lead trade negotiators, and get this thing behind us.
Could you expect this to bear fruit? You're not expecting?
Yes, I expect it to be a short meeting with a big, strong handshake, and we'll see. But that's what we're expecting.
And then back to the negotiating table for some of the other things, or this was the main
other things.
Was this the main sticking point that it was?
Yeah, this was a very significant sticking point because China controls, as you know, something like 90% of the rare earths and the magnets. And if they're slow rolling, sending those to the U.S. because of some licensing deal that they set up, then it could potentially disrupt production for some U.S. companies that rely on those things. And there are enough of those, like, for example, auto companies, that President Trump took it very seriously, called President Xi and said, we gotta get this stuff coming out faster. And President Xi agreed.
Kevin, the alternative, China's perspective on that is that the import controls on semiconductors are equally problematic for Chinese companies that rely on these things. Is that going to be kind of an offset to say, okay, we'll get back on board, we'll let up on the rare earth minerals if you will go ahead and say the same thing on the semiconductors? Is that the trade-off?
Correct. Yeah, correct. So our expectation is that after the handshake, then immediately after the handshake, any export controls from the U.S. will be eased, and the rare earths will be released in volume, and then we can go back to negotiating smaller matters.
But I thought those were for security issues. We were worried about them using in military things. Is there some way to control against that and make sure that doesn't happen?
Well, it depends. Like the very, very high-end NVIDIA stuff is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about possible export controls on other semiconductors, which are also very important to them.
But not the H2O or the H20?
No, that would be a new thing.
Yeah. Water.
Yeah, he was not going to give us any concession that NVIDIA is going to get out of these export controls. So look, I mean, basically what he's saying right here is not bad in terms of the updates on the ability to reconcile differences to navigate rare earth minerals. But we're going to need something in writing today with Besant, Lutnick, and Greer meeting in London. And if we do, I think that could be a catalyst for markets if markets haven't already kind of priced it in. But at least it's a good next step to get this trade deal done with China.
Or should be free to go between. Kevin, talk India, will you?
Sure.
You have been on before. You've teased us. You haven't pleased us yet. Is that happening? They're staying. They wouldn't stay just because they like the I don't know, their hotel room or something, right?
Right. Yeah. The fact is that I think that we spent the last week and a half getting the China situation under control, including having calls with President Xi and President Trump, sending our top trade team to London to finalize that deal. And we've got a whole bunch of stuff that's teed up to go next, and India would be top of the list.
Talk about reconciliation, and I don't know. You probably don't. You talked out about Elon and the president and Scott Bessent and all that stuff. I think we're back talking about reconciliation, and I think the Senate's getting serious. And John Thune, I think he's a great majority leader, but you might be jealous of Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson has pulled the rabbit out of his hat a few times. I think John Thune wants to show he can whip people around too, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, there's the stage where basically senators rightly try to adjust the bill in their favor for the thing they care most about. And there are, I think, 53 senators that are doing that respectfully for Majority Leader Thune. He's managing that along with Senator Crapo, who runs the Finance Committee. And we're certain that the Finance Committee is going to finish it up. The Senate's going to finish it up, and we're going to have a big, beautiful bill by the 4th of July. And so there'll be a lot of modification here and there, but the president's priorities are redlined in the bill. Everybody agrees to that. And when we get it, Joe, don't forget, then if it fails to pass, then what it means is we have the biggest tax hike in history, and our Council of Economic Advisors estimates that GDP would drop 4%. And of course, you'd lose millions of jobs, and the deficit would go way up. And if we pass it, then we've done the estimate that we used last time when we said you get $4,000 increase in wages. It's $10,000 now. And so you got a $10,000 wage increase for the average American or a recession. That's what they're talking about in the end. And in the end, really, if they had to, Democrats would vote for it.
We had the speaker on.
All right, so that's what we got from Kevin Hasset. Didn't really give us too much new in terms of what I think people were trying to hear. We didn't really get an update if India is coming anytime soon. I guess you could say we kind of got an update on this China stuff, but really when the meeting concludes in London, we'll have a better understanding of it, which again should be happening later today. And we'll probably see Trump tweet about the meeting if the meeting did go well. Let me see if he posted anything this morning. He has not. All right. He is talking about Los Angeles, which is a whole nother issue. There are a lot of protests going on right now and riots about illegal immigration. That's going to be another challenge for the Trump administration to deal with right now. And that's probably also why he probably is not thinking enough about or a lot about Elon, because he's got other stuff on his mind. Elon's actually been posting about the protests in support of Trump. So Elon's been kind of, backing up the president in terms of his stance on this. But yeah, I think we will get more updates throughout the day when it comes to China if that meeting goes well. And I think the meeting has to go well. Like there's no world in my head where the meeting goes bad today. If it goes bad, that's horrible for markets. But also the U.S. and China, they both can't afford for it to go bad. And one of the reasons the U.S. can't afford for it to go bad is obviously the U.S. needs China, and we need to make sure that we get a deal done, get our cost of goods in place, get these tariff revenues in, etc. China, well, they're having some issues with their inflation report. Last night, China CPI came out. It fell for the 4th straight month in May. PPI is the weakest in 2 years. They are officially at negative 3.3% PPI. They are deflating, and they are deflating aggressively. And so we did have an inflation problem. I don't think we have an inflation problem anymore, but we did have an inflation issue over the past couple of years. That inflation issue is seeming to resolve itself in the United States. China has a deflation problem, and massive levels of deflation or inflation are not good. And that's why China is stimulating as much as they can. And it's helping to an extent, like reserve ratio requirements they're getting rid of. They're pumping more money into the economy. They're forcing more corporations to be able to buy back their stock. But that's not necessarily the best way to deal with this. The best way to deal with this is to unleash massive levels of growth, which China doesn't have yet. And in order to have that type of growth, you need the U.S. consumer. You need us to buy stupid Chinese goods because we need an extra water bottle or something that comes from China. And if you don't have the U.S. consumer, it's going to be very, very difficult for China to grow. So I'm expecting a resolution to this, hopefully today, in terms of just like the next part of the framework for the deal. And then, I would assume by the end of August, we can get like an actual deal, at least set in stone, if not definitively signed. And hopefully that's a catalyst for the markets as well. Tesla right here, 289 in the pre-market, so that's down a little bit. Robin at 72.64, that's down about 3%. Palantir 127. Nvidia, I don't know why Nvidia is getting a bit of a move in the pre-markets. I think it's because Jensen's at GTC and the market's anticipating that he's going to be saying some stuff that's going to be very important. And as a result, that's leading to some more momentum potentially for the stock here today, which is what we're seeing. Is Grab selling off yet? Let's see. Grab right here, 515. I mean, Grab could definitely dump at the open, guys. If they are not planning to acquire GoTo, which is what the statement they put out today, which, again, I'm not really buying that, but that's what the company's saying, then that could definitely dump. Again, the issue here is they have too much cash for them to not do anything with the cash. And if they're not buying back any stock, it's probably because they, especially as the stock is, you know, you would argue definitively undervalued when it got to $3 at one point and they bought back not even a single share. Like, why? Right? Like, it begs the question why. It's probably because they're trying to do something with it. And so when he says Grab has not entered into any definitive agreements yet, it makes you wonder, all right, you know, if that's the case, maybe that's the case. But then I'm curious, over the next 6 months, what are they going to do with that cash if it's not being used to buy GoTo? So I don't know. This one's going to be interesting. We're going to see if the street really does believe them, then maybe the stock craters. But I never invested because of this acquisition. It just happened to be something that could be very beneficial. And so I think over the next few months, we're going to see how the street interprets this as well. Are you worried it's bad management, or are you pretty certain it's strategic? No, I think it's more strategic. This is not a management thing. Management has grown the company well enough over the past couple of years, even in the midst of the stock not going up because they had to, you know, clean up their EBITDA, net income, all that stuff, for this not to be a management thing. But I also just don't believe what they're saying right here. I don't believe that they are not in definitive talks. I think they're trying to get the media off their back and trying to get the, you know, antitrust boards off their back so they can actually negotiate a good deal. That's what I think it's going to be. But it could be wrong. It could be wrong. So, yeah, I think they're doing it for strategic negotiations as well. I mean, they've been asked about this many, many, many times, and they just had to deny it. And I think finally today they were like, all right, let's just definitively put out something denying it so that we don't have to worry about this anymore. And then in the background, they're probably working on these deals. We've just had too many reports that they're working on consultants and lawyers and M&A and all this stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. But the market's ultimately going to tell us today if they think it's happening or not, based on how this stock price reacts as well. Robinhood did get upgraded today from Deutsche Bank, 85 from 70. So Deutsche Bank is upgrading Robinhood shares from $70 to $85. We've got that crypto event coming up soon, and we're going to see how the market thinks of it. And that will be very important. Also today, we have Worldwide Developers Conference for Apple. So that's going to be a big one. I will try to stream it. I don't know if Apple will let me. Last time they shut down my stream when I tried to talk about it. So we're going to see if they let us. But if they do, then I will definitely be streaming what they have to say. I'll put a poll right here in the chat if you guys expect anything groundbreaking from Apple. I you know, call me a bit skeptical, but I really don't think Apple's going to show off anything exciting. I would love to be wrong about that. But we're going to see. WWDC today, do you think Apple shows off something really important? Like, I'm asking myself, what could they show off? A flip phone, you know, or a foldable phone or whatever. More AI updates. We know that whatever AI stuff they put out, it's not going to be good, or it's just going to be them working with ChatGPT. So it's like, you know, what really are we expecting here? And I just don't think it's going to be anything that amazing. It's not going to be glasses, not going to be Vision Pro 2.0. So I'm pretty skeptical on what they could put out. But I would hope it's something good that, you know, for the sake of the market, Apple doing well is great for the market. So that's the funny thing. It's like, I'm not short Apple. I don't think any of us are short Apple. Apple doing well is great for the market. But if, you know, Apple's just not been able to do well. It's not been able to actually innovate. A lot of the other companies are taking the mantle from them. So today is going to be a day to see where, and the whole world is like, you know, tired of new phone colors on the iPhone as their like biggest update. So today, everyone's going to be looking for something pretty big today. The question is just going to be, what can it be? When analysts upgrade a stock price target, is that a 12-month target? Yeah, usually it's 12 months. So usually when an analyst upgrades a stock there, unless they say otherwise, they're assuming 1 year out. This is where they think the stock should probably be. Qualcomm does an acquisition, and so did IONQ. So here you go. Qualcomm has agreed to acquire British semiconductor company Alphaware IP for $2.4 billion. IONQ, Quantum Name, has signed a definitive agreement to acquire Oxford Ionics for $1.1 billion. Wow. You got a quantum acquisition today, and you got a semiconductor acquisition. So Qualcomm right here, that stock up about 1% in the pre-markets. And then IONQ, it's up 11%. D-Wave, I think that other quantum should be up. Yeah, look at D-Wave, 19. We will have someone come on the market close today, Test, to talk more about quantum and give us the bull case. So we will talk about that on the market close today. And Rigetti, that's up 5%. There you go. All the quantum names are moving as a result of, it looks like as a result of that IONQ acquisition that's helping all the other quantum names. Are you still holding your hood 9,500? No, I sold those a while ago. I sold those at 50. So I got out of those at 50, made very little bit of money, and I just bought the stock. If I held on to them, the options would have been doing well, but I just, in this macro, I really did not want to hold on to options, especially on something as volatile as hood. So for me, I feel a lot more comfortable buying stock and selling calls against it and holding it versus long dated leaps. But for anyone who does have those leaps, I mean, you're doing really well. And it didn't have to be 95, 100. It could have been way shorter strikes to be able to still get some momentum. But yeah, I just bought the stock instead. Cool. Okay, so that's what we have in the context of this Robinhood upgrade and some of these acquisition newses that we looked at. Let's talk about what retail is doing. So I talked about this last night, and then we'll talk about Tesla for a second. This stuff is really important in terms of just how retail is thinking about the market. So JP Morgan's data is showing that retail investors bought $23 billion in equities during the month of May, $150 billion of net retail inflows in ETFs and stocks year to date, and $6.8 billion of retail net inflows last week. 65% of that went into Tesla, which is kind of wild, bro. Like out of $7 billion that retail pumped into the markets last week, 65% of that came into Tesla alone. And then overall $23 billion in equities during the month of May. Now, the $23 billion in equities during the month of May, that was lower than the $40 billion that we had in March and April. So March and April, both $80 billion together with $40 billion coming in. Obviously, retail was buying the dip. $23 billion in May, I think was just kind of retail being smart, saying, hey, we bought the crap out of the dip, and now we're just going to chill out. And we're going to wait for hedge funds to step in and do what they need to do, which is pump our bags because we bought when the hedge funds and the money managers and the institutions didn't want to do. And in fact, we looked at this chart last week, but that's exactly what they did. Hedge funds posted a record buying of global equities in the month of May, as you can see on this chart right here. I think if you're retail, you just got to be patient now because you did the hard work of buying, whether it was Meta at 480 or Robinhood at 30 or Palantir at 60 or Nvidia at 87 it got to at one point. Like you did the hard work. Now you let the big money come in and chase because they have more certainty. Retail bought when there was less certainty. But that's where you get a better risk reward when you buy when your people are afraid. And I think we just kind of let the institutions take us to all-time high. And it kind of seems inevitable. Like it really does seem like the markets are ready and gearing up for that all-time high. S&P right here, 6,000. There could be some things that stop us from getting here, but it's not going to be earnings growth. It's not going to be tariffs. It seems like that story's kind of played out unless Trump, creates some other crazy policy, which I don't think he's going to do because he wants this to get resolved with. It's not going to be the credit markets. The 10-year actually came down last week. I mean, we're starting to see the bond market cheer up a little bit. It's not going to be the Japanese yen carry trade. Like, it's not going to be the labor market. Freaking the labor market added 139,000 jobs last. I mean, like no one expected that. The market wanted 125. We came in again with a big beat. So there could be something that breaks this market, but it's just not some of the more conventional things that people are thinking about. And for that reason, I think retail was able to buy the dip aggressively, and now they can chill out and not need to be forced to buy the dip and not need to chase the dip or chase the rally because they already bought the dip. And that's great for retail that's sitting on their cash and allowing hedge funds to deploy actual money, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars into this market. Now, the fact that 65% of the net inflows went into Tesla transitions us really nicely into what the hell is going on with Tesla. So obviously last week was crazy. We all felt the Elon Trump drama hit a peak. We got a Tesla downgrade this morning from Bard. Here's what they said. Tesla's strong performance following a fundamentally poor quarter, up 24%. The S&P 500 up 13%, has been partly a product of anticipation for the June launch of both a more affordable vehicle and a robotaxi service. We believe Musk's comments regarding the robotaxi ramp rate are a bit too optimistic, and we believe that this excitement has been priced into shares. We also note that Musk's ties to President Trump have added considerable uncertainty. We see Tesla as a core term holding long term, but are stepping to the sidelines for now. I think what Bard is saying right here is very similar to what pretty much everyone else has been saying, what a lot of bulls have been saying as well, which is that, hey, super bullish on Tesla long term, but at the end of the day, the stock's being priced for something that doesn't exist right now, and the rift with Trump, might be an issue. I put out a post over the weekend on Twitter, which went a little viral because there's some people in the Tesla community that, in my opinion, can't analyze any level of objectivity when you say, hey, there's some issues with the stock. But I said, look, there's some headwinds. Bad European sales. Cybertruck doing 0% APR feels like not good for demand. EV tax credit going away. This to me is horrible for the average American that was thinking of buying an EV. And then Trump might gut any self-driving regulations to get back at Elon, because Elon said he was on the Epstein list, which, by the way, Elon deleted the tweet, which begs the question, why did he tweet it in the first place? But those are the 4 headwinds. And then the tailwinds are obviously FSD and humanoids. And so my question to everyone was like, who's selling? Who's buying the dip? The irony of this post is that I'm looking for a dip and I'm bullish and I want to, find whatever opportunity comes that would create a meaningful dip. I think 250 is kind of the start of a DCA. 220 is where I think you go a bit heavier because that was the April lows, but it would not surprise me if we get below 200s and Q2 is so bad and, the street takes it down to 150. I also don't think it has to go down that low. And I would say the probabilities on that are more so 30-70, 30% it goes below 200, 70% it stays above. And I think there's a good shot it could rally back up to 300 if Robotaxi starts getting people excited. But ironically, as I put out this post last night, I was actually on the phone with a friend who sold all of his shares that he bought at $50. And we got on the phone and he was like, I'm selling. And I was like, no. I was like, don't do it. He was like, nope, I'm tired of this shit. I was like, dude, I don't think you're going to get an entry price at 50. And he was like, I don't even care about my entry price. I am just annoyed with Elon. I am tired of how he's been acting. His concern was pretty much the same things that all the long-term bulls had in the comments. If you read the comments of this post, a lot of long-term bulls were like, dude, we are just so fed up at this point. We've had to deal with this for so many years and it looks like it's not stopping anymore. And so he sold last night. I couldn't walk him off the edge. He sold in the overnight markets and it was done. And look, some people could say it's stupid selling before Robotaxi. His perspective, which is also fair, he thinks that being able to sell at 300 is a gift. He thinks that given the fundamentals of the company and what's going on and Elon being a bit erratic, it's actually a gift to be able to get out at these levels. And he thinks this thing is coming. And he doesn't even have another place to put the money. He said, I'd rather be in cash than even reallocate the capital. Which just goes to show kind of the point I was trying to make is that there is a bit of a sense. And this is one of the most bullish. I mean, again, his average is 50. He's been in the name for many years. So when someone like that just says, I'm done before one of the biggest launches of Tesla's history, which is the Robotaxi, it goes to show there is a bit of a narrative shift that's going on right here. And if the stock going down from 370 to 288 is not enough evidence that, hey, maybe sentiment's shifting a little bit, $300 billion of capital has left the stock, then, maybe some of the anecdotes of people saying, you know what, I'm just done with this. I don't want to be part of it. That might give a little bit better of an understanding. Now, one thing about Robotaxi that's weird is it's supposed to launch in 3 days and there's no update on it. It was supposed to launch on June 12th. There's no press release. There's no flyer. There's no invitation. There's no event. There's nothing. So I'm also curious if we actually do get a Robotaxi event. It wouldn't surprise me if we don't. Elon did say June 12th, which would be nice. Bitcoin right here, 107. But if we don't, then it is what it is. And, that could also be something that could hurt Tesla as well. By the way, he's not a boomer. He's not an older person. He's 24. He's 24. So I guess instead of him being old, you guys can call him stupid and young and stupid or whatever. You can throw whatever ad hom attacks you want at someone for making this decision. But the point is, when people like this that have had Tesla for years, he was lucky enough to buy Tesla at 19, and now he's like, I'm trying to get out of it. And again, he's a young person, so it's not like he doesn't understand the future and Robotaxi, all that stuff. It just shows that there are more people out there that are saying, enough is enough, and they're getting tired of this. But ultimately, Robotaxis, we're going to see how that plays out this week if it does launch this week as well. Dougie, thank you for the gifted 5 memberships. 5 of you guys just got gifted memberships as a result of Mr. Dougie. So appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the gifted memberships. Doug actually bought the Tesla dip. I think at 270 last week on Thursday. And I know Doug has freed up some capital and he does want to buy the Tesla dip even further if it gives us the opportunity. But I think he took advantage of it. We took advantage of it as well back at that 275 price. I think the lowest it got to was 270, right? The lowest it got to last week was 272 roundabout. And so I guess we see, if we break those levels or if we stay kind of elevated from there currently right now. So that's what we got on Tesla. Again, look, my thoughts on Tesla. I want to be part of this company. I want to invest in it. I'm not a bear. People saw my Figure interview last night and they're like, isn't it weird that Amit is is doing interviews with the competitor of a humanoid robot company, and then he's talking about why there's some headwinds on Tesla. It's like, no, it's not weird that I like multiple companies and that I can also be objective and analyze those companies as well. By the way, I can be objective on Figure and say that, hey, they're going to have a really hard time competing from a supply chain perspective with Tesla when it comes to manufacturing and robots, because Tesla's the king of manufacturing at these wide scales. The difference is Figure has a CEO who is 100% dedicated to making robots real. Tesla does not. It's just that simple. Elon is not 1000% dedicated to just making robots and Optimus happen. Now, that doesn't mean that Tesla's going to fail at it by any means, but that does mean there is a bit of a difference. And we can be objective and analyze the difference without saying one person hates Elon, one person doesn't. Like, it fascinated me the amount of people that actually, thought, like, amidst pointing out the headwinds of Tesla because he's invested in a humanoid competitor. I'm like, guys, that company's worth $40 billion. Tesla's worth almost $1 trillion. Like, what are we talking about here? It's like the idea that someone's trying to tear down Tesla. It's insanity, bro. But again, it goes back to this whole Palantir thing. People love conspiracies. They love an easy narrative. And, it becomes so personal for them. And it's like, all right, whatever. If you're going to be that personal, then you can be that personal. Cultists hate objectivity. Yeah, and I'm a fan of, dude, I'm part of the Palantir cult. I think cults make the best investments, right? And Tesla, Palantir, these have been incredible investments because of the cultish nature of them. But in the midst of that cultish nature, you also don't want to lose all levels of objectivity. And unfortunately, I think that's, some stuff that is happening in the context of Tesla. But it is what it is. That's always how Tesla's been. People are going to be emotional about it. The question is just, how it plays out in the long term. And robotaxi, I think, is the core thesis that everyone should be looking for. All right, let's hear from the professor and get his thoughts on what's going on in the context of Powell. Obviously, everyone wants him to lower rates. He's not going to do it in June. There's a 98% chance that he doesn't do it. We get CPI data this week. That's going to be important to see if he will lower rates. But yeah, I don't think we're going to get a June cut, but let's see if there's any chance of a potential July cut at this point.
Yeah, you're right. It's all about the gray matter.
Let me tell you, yes, I am against the tariffs. And by the way, if the tariffs had stayed where they were in the first term, I think the Dow would be 2,000 points higher. And if the tariffs had remained where they were on April 2nd, I think the Dow would be 8,000 points lower. And and I actually turned bullish 3 weeks ago when the negotiations went so well on the first meeting between Xi and Bessent. Well, it wasn't Xi's representative and Bessent on trade talks. I mean, no one expected it, to go from 145% down to 30% and all that. And I said, listen, the market can live with 10 and 30, 10 base and 30 on China. Now, I know the aluminum and steel have 50. But I think the market can definitely live with those. And if it doesn't get worse, I think there's no reason we can't push to new highs. If it gets higher and ramps up there, then the ceiling is on.
I wonder, we're hearing now that India is extending the talks, which we'll talk to Kevin Hasset. Maybe that would be a positive. China. Talking again, near term, it may not be the whole summer that you're worried, right? Or
well,
maybe
I hope not. I mean, very honestly, I don't want to call it the taco trade because obviously, it sort of demeans Trump.
Right.
But the truth is, he's been, very much more flexible. I mean, we always known that his bark is louder than his bite when it really came to these tariffs. And I think the initial reaction honestly sort of shocked him. And he said, oh, wow, I better pedal a little easier on that. I mean, listen, we're not seeing Peter Navarro the way we did, in April, are we? We're seeing Bessent much more moderate. He's been more moderate. He knows this takes time. These trade agreements are not, he gave the EU, yes, no, I give you 1 day. Well, it's been 1 day. These things do take time. And by the way, yes, if we can lower some of their restrictions, we will be better off. There's no question about that. But, it's a big consumption tax. And, let's face it, most of the 90% of the manufacturing job loss since World War II came before we even had NAFTA. or before China entered the WTO. I mean, it's a natural evolution as globalization and the world economy really picked up. So, we're not getting back to the 50s. And I think we have to look ahead to, what economy we're looking forward to rather than back to, what looks like the good old days.
I don't know what in taco trade. It's either that or the art of the deal. I don't think it's helpful either because it just probably makes him mad and
it inflames him and it could make him more impulsive on. Hey, now I'm going to show him I don't back down. And then,
if you got, I'm not saying that these unfair practices have held us back. I mean, obviously we're the greatest. We've had the greatest economy around. But if we could get a 50% lessening of some of these restrictions, it's not perfect. It's not a removal of everything. It's not a completely fair trading. But anything happens on the margin, and then both countries get to say, okay, we're done, and now back to business as usual, and you get 50% better. I mean, that would be good. That would work.
I mean, that would work. And as I've said before, if you're going to be a world reserve currency, which is a position that Donald Trump says he definitely supports. Remember, he threatened the emerging markets, say, don't try to put a currency on us above the dollar. You need to run a trade deficit. You have to have more dollars flowing abroad than you take in to provide that sort of currency. So
the dollar right here, by the way, 99.19. That's been below 100 for the past couple of weeks, which has actually been really good. This thing was at like 115 in January, so it's nice that this one's coming down. Look, I agree with what Siegel's saying. At this point, Siegel's also realizing it's time to get a deal, because if we don't get a deal anytime soon, then the markets are not going to be able to hold up. I mean, the markets are basically priced, S&P at 6,000, for a deal and for at least one rate cut. And so we need both of those things to happen. And when I mean deal, I mean like something with China, something that would be more substantial, that would pave the way for all these other little deals to take place. I think that's what this 622 times forward earnings is implying in the S&P. Yes, there's been good growth, and yes, there's been other tailwinds like AI that have been really productive, NVIDIA, all the Middle East investments, etc. Pro-growth policies on the way in this new big, beautiful bill, but we need a trade deal and we need one rate cut. And I think without both of those, it's going to be hard to kind of justify the big momentum that we're seeing. 78% of you in the poll said you are not expecting Apple to show off anything big. So the majority of you are not expecting anything from Apple. I put out a new poll right here in the chat. Is Tesla going lower from here? So far, 80% of you say yes, 21% say no. So obviously the sentiment based on just that poll is showing me that a decent chunk of you do think this one is heading lower. And maybe it does. But I think it's up to the market now to kind of price what they think is going to play out for Tesla. Triple V, thank you for the $100 super chat. Appreciate you, brother. He is back. We are back in the studio. And Triple V didn't leave the whole week. Last week he was he had those $100 super chats coming in every single day. So appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being here. I'm curious if he's buying the Tesla dip. I think I'll ask him if he's at all thinking of Tessie. I don't know if he has Tesla. If he does, he probably has a lot of Tesla. But I think he used to have a lot of Tesla and he might have sold it. So I don't know. So I'll try to find out for you guys if Mr. Triple V is buying some Tessie. Plot twist, Triple V is his mom. Oh my gosh. Dude, my mom doesn't have $100 to give out every day. That's probably not the case. Amit, how do you choose the strikes on your debit spreads? It's just a question of where you think the stock can get to in a couple of years. So, like, realistically on Hood, I did have 55.70s. Those I also sold because, again, I just didn't want it to be in spreads. But 55.70s to me was like rather reasonable. The way you choose the strike is you try to figure out, is there an attractive opportunity within the width of the spread? So the 55.70s were given a 4x, which I thought was pretty attractive for the stock to have to go to 70. So it has to get to 55 on the long end, 70 on the short end. And as long as it gets there, now they're in the money. I got a couple friends into those that I'm close with. I got them into the 55.70s, but I just didn't want to stay into them because I already had such a big position in the stock itself. So you want to pick strikes that you think are able to get in the money within the period of time. I guess that's like the best way I would think about it. And then obviously it comes down to where you think the valuation should be, et cetera. But you know, although Robinhood, I have a lot of faith in them. I just like being in call options for the next couple of years, given all the volatility. It's just, I'd rather own the stock. So that's currently what how I'd play it, and you know why I would want to play it at those levels. Triple V though, he has a ton of Robinhood, and he's enjoying the run that we've seen on Hood. I think his average on Hood is like below 30 or something. He's been in it for a minute. I think he started buying it like 22, 23. So he's got more than Brad Gerstner is all I'll say. So this run that we've seen of like 20% over the past 2 weeks, he's definitely been enjoying this momentum as well. Jason, thank you for the $200 super chat. I figured out who VVV is. It's my brother Sherwin. I shall stay anonymous as well. Love you. Keep buying Palantir. Jason, I'm going to have to buy Palantir if you keep giving me these $200 super chats telling me to buy Palantir. So you are single-handedly going to be increasing my Palantir exposure. All right, here we go. Let's buy one for Jason. You guys will see it on Legend in a second. There you go. Your limit order to buy one share of Palantir was filled. All right, Jason. We got it. Thank you for the super chat. Another share of Palantir added to the collection. That's what it is. It's a collection. That's what we're doing. All right, cool. So we got the market open in about 2 minutes. This is going to be an interesting one today. I am very curious to kind of see how this one ends up playing out. Again, we've had a lot of momentum over the past couple of weeks. I kind of think, and I think you guys are thinking this as well, like we need to chill out a little bit and we need the markets to kind of just relax. Because the worst thing is for them to take a 5% haircut, which is, it's not the worst thing because like, you know, it would suck for all of our portfolios, but it's also expected, right? Markets have been raging for the past 2 months. I don't think any seasoned investor would be shocked if the markets took a 5% haircut. But if we consolidate at these levels over the next month, and then we can make the next leg up in July and August when we get more momentum on trade deals, rate cuts, etc., I think that would be very healthy. So June so far has been volatile in certain names. Overall indices have been relatively flat outside of hitting 6,000 on the S&P. And I think that trend could continue this week. But we do have CPI, we have PPI, we have Apple announcement today. So we have a lot of other macro data to look at and catalysts that could take this market higher. And, you know, now it's just going to be a question to see what happens. Tesla as well. Obviously, the Elon Trump stuff that could affect Tesla. NVIDIA is an event with Paris today. So a lot of different updates. And we're going to see over the coming weeks how this ultimately ends up playing out. All right, here we go. Monday, June 9th, 9:30 a.m. Folks, we are once again back in the studio, all bricked up. Thank everybody for being here. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Robinhood opens up at 70.31. 70.31. Look at that red kid. Wow, 69.90. There she goes. So it was at 73 in the pre-market. This one getting dumped right here, about 4%. There you go. Robinhood 69.92. Let's see if it holds below the 70s or if it recovers back at 70. Tessie 285 opens up down 3%. Tesla was at 294 yesterday in the pre-markets. That was down. Grab, is Grab getting killed? Let's see. Grab is down 1%. It's not that bad. For the company to deny the entire acquisition and be down 1%, that's not that crazy. I expected it actually to drop below $5. So we'll see if that happens later throughout the day, but that's actually not too crazy. Microsoft 470. Wow. All-time highs on Microsoft. There you go. 470.58. Microsoft just chugging along. Palantir 126.90. That's down about 0.5%. NVIDIA 144, baby. We haven't seen 144 for a while. Last time we saw it was freaking on the earnings day. Right on the we like touched it for a second on the earnings day after hours, and then it went down. Tesla right here 282. Tesla's getting a little bit of red. Google right here 174. That's nice to see. Amazon 213. Meta's at 698. Meta close to the 700s. SLG is up a little bit. TFC 4077. ELF is at 120. Palo Alto Networks 198. Grab, oh there you go. Grab's getting dumped. That's what I expected. Grab barely holding on to $5. Let's see if that continues. But Grab right here down about 3%. AMD 119. That's up a little bit. Roblox 93.83. That's down. Coinbase 256. Apple right here at 204. All the semis, I would imagine, are getting some love because of NVIDIA. Broadcom is actually down. No. Okay, so NVIDIA is going the opposite of them. Broadcom's down. Intel is up. AMD is up. NVIDIA is up. Micron, is that up? Micron is up. Okay, so maybe it's all the semis outside of Broadcom. Is that the case? Yeah, that's pretty much the case. ASML, SMCI, Intel, TSM, Qualcomm, ON, Marvell, AMD, Micron, Lam Research, all of them are green. Broadcom's taking it on the chin, 260 to 242 after those earnings. I guess the street did not really love some of the stuff going on in the earnings. Celsius right here is at 42.08. Celsius up 4%. Not too bad. Is CoreWeave pumping? CoreWeave is indeed pumping, 146. It was at 138 last night, so CoreWeave getting some love. That means Nebis is also probably pumping, 5104. Nebis up 5.8%. That one is up. ASTS, Kris and I will have a stream on that probably Wednesday night. Most likely Wednesday night we will have a stream on that. ASTS right here, 3366. That's up 7.4%. Wow. So Rocket Lab, is that one getting a little bit of a move as well? Rocket Lab, 2947. That's up about 2%. That's up about 2%. Joby's up 50%. Dude, Joby's up like 40% over the past week. This one's had a lot of love, especially after that Toyota deal. And then Circle, latest IPO. Okay. Does Circle feel like a bubble yet? Does Circle feel like a bubble yet? 133. Are you kidding me? It's up 30%. Or sorry, 24% in the pre-markets. Or not pre-markets, but as soon as the market opens. This is crazy. It's up 15% in the pre-markets. Goodness gracious, dude. APLD, that one was pumping last week. That one is down right here. That one's flat on the day. Archer, 1072. That's up about 5%. NVIDIA, 144. A nice 144 in NVIDIA. Robinhood, below 70 at 69.82. Currently right now on Hood. All right, Triple V just texted me. He says, I don't have any Tesla. I always get burnt. However, I did sell $250 puts for next week. And he sold how many of them? He sold about 2,700. So he sold the equivalent of 270,000 shares of exposure for Tesla, 270,000, 2,700 puts, and he got paid $1.10 for this week, or $1.88 for this week, which is not bad. It's some pretty damn good premium. Robinhood back above 70. Tesla right here, 284. So that means as long as Tesla doesn't go below 250, he gets to keep all that juicy premium. And does Tesla go to 250 by the end of this week? I don't know. I mean, like it could, but I think if it goes to 250, it might take a couple weeks to get there. Now, granted, Tesla's incredibly volatile. So if you can avoid 250 this week, then those 2,700 contracts go to zero and he collects all of that money. Palantir right here, 125. That's down about 2% on the day. NVIDIA, 144.50. Wow. I think this is because of GTC, guys. HIMS right here is also down 2%. Okay, so HIMS not really able to catch a bid. Let me check resistance for 145 on NVIDIA. That one is doing the best today. 144.56. 145 on NVIDIA. The wall is 1.4 million shares. Okay, so 145 is going to be a little hard. If anyone has 1.5 million shares, you can help us out. AMD 121. AMD 121. AMD is also up 4%. AMD is up also 4%. There goes Grab. Okay, so the reason Grab is down is because the company came out today and said they are not engaged in any talks for an acquisition with GoTo. I'm not really buying it, to be honest. I think this is what companies do all the time when they want to get the media off their back so they can clearly negotiate. But Q2 will know in about a month when they give out results, what they're doing with their $6 billion in cash, because they're not buying back stock. And if you're not buying back stock and you're not, doing something with that capital, then there's an issue, right? You got to be able to tell shareholders what you're doing with that money. So I think we'll get more clarity in about a month and a half. But yeah, that should take the stock down. I mean, the stock was pumping last week because of that news. And if the news isn't there, then, the stock is down. Grab wouldn't say that if it wasn't happening. Yeah, exactly. That's also. See, but this is the fun of being part of a new stock, right? Like this is the stuff we had to deal with Palantir and Hood. And when he was at these are the sort of journeys you go through in terms of trying to figure out how to navigate it. And part of the journey is trying to figure out how do you understand the perceptual psychology that the company is trying to put out, because they're obviously trying to, work for their interests, and their interests are not really elevated when everyone's thinking that they're definitely doing a deal. It's good for them to have this uncertainty to be able to negotiate. So just part of the process. But I think in a month, we will have more details on how the thesis ultimately is playing out. Meta right here, back to 700. Meta back to 700. AMD, great day for AMD. Robinhood below 69. This is kind of obvious. I mean, if they weren't going to get into the S&P, I think all of us thought they would have a little bit of a rebound. The question is, how low does it go? Does she go to 65? Does she kind of, normalize at 68 to 70? We'll see. But this one is down 8%. NVIDIA still holding 144. Palantir down at 125. HIMS 55.20, that's down 2%. Nubank right here, 1204. TLT slightly down a bit on the day. The 10 years up a little bit. AppLovin down 7%. They didn't get into the S&P 500. TTD's up a little bit. IBKR as well is down 5%. They were rumored to get into the S&P 500. CoreWeave still up on the day. Uber 86 and Lyft 1578 currently right now. The Qs 529 on the day. So there you go. Got a bunch of these stocks getting hit at various levels. Was the merger baked into your target on Grab? No, I didn't even know what go-to was when I made my price target. But so I think Grab will be fine without the merger. Like, I never thought of it. It would just be something that, you know, could vastly accelerate the thesis. And I still think it's happening. I'm really not buying that they're not in talks. But in the next 2 months, we'll know. We'll have a much better understanding over the next 2 months to see how this all plays out. MicroStrategy right here, 379. That's down about 1.36%, or that's up 1.3. And then Bitcoin getting some love. Again, MicroStrategy not really moving with Bitcoin because they are diluting shareholders to buy more Bitcoin. But that's kind of the long-term thesis you have to adopt right here for MSTR. Bitcoin 107.5 currently right now. Yeah, if you had any covered calls on Hood, you're good today. Dude, my mom, we got on the phone on Friday, and she had 1,400 shares that she didn't have any covered calls on. We sold when the stock was 76, so not at the very highs, but, you know, pretty high up. We sold a $95 call for July 3rd, and we picked up $1.20 in premium. So she collected $1,700 to sit and just wait to not let Robinhood get to 95 by July 3rd, which even if they got into the S&P 500, bro, could they have got to 95? Sure. But I mean, it felt like taking money for free from somebody. It's like, really? You think they're going to get to $95? It's not Palantir we're talking about that has SaaS revenues that are reoccurring. This is something that's hyper volatile because we have a cyclical market. And if the market takes a little bit of a dip in July, so is Robinhood. It is what it is, right? Trading volumes are going to go down. But no, like, someone was willing to pay that much in premiums. So the premiums were great. If anyone sold some long dated covered calls, you're definitely going to be able to take advantage of those. And if they were under pressure at 95, we could have easily rolled them, right? Like that would have been the easiest roll ever because we're rolling from such a high level above the strike price. So that, I think she's going to collect some decent premiums on that in about a month. ASTS, is that one still moving? Now, the reason Rocket Lab was moving over the weekend is because there was a Washington Post article, ASTS up 5%, that said that the government is looking at different contractors besides SpaceX due to the Elon Trump rift. I don't know how true that article is, but that did get Rocket Lab a little bit of a move. 2880 right here was at 31 yesterday in the overnight markets, down right now. But that also is why it pumped 5% on Thursday. NVIDIA getting a little hit, 143 down from 144. SoFi 1413. Google at 174. Google trying to get for 175. On the day, Meta, look at that. Cracking above 700. 702 on Meta. Amazon as well, 215. Big tech starting to get some love right here. And then Tessie still red at 288 on the day. Closed my call option on Hood at the open, 62% profit, not quite the 100% it was on Friday, but still. Yeah, I mean, not bad, right? At least you're able to get some profits here, even with Hood taking a bit of a dump. 69.45 right here on Hoodie, down about 7.2%. Okay, let's see some of the other headlines we got going on. We did get Japan's GDP numbers last night, and they were not the best. Also, Japan sold the most German sovereign bonds they've sold in a decade. That came out last night as well, which was interesting. They're not selling U.S. bonds as much as they're selling Germany bonds. But you can tell that their focus is shifting a little bit more to consolidating in terms of their credit markets. We got this update by Morgan Stanley. Gemini 2.5 Pro is currently the leading model across a variety of benchmarks, and Google's integration of Gemini across GCP could improve capabilities and enterprise adoption. So you got Morgan Stanley put out a note last night that they are very confident that Gemini is going to be one of the defending models. Robinhood right here back at 70. And I think that's fair. I think in the enterprise section, Google right here breaking above 175. Looks like that Morgan Stanley headline, not too bad. Is going to be very important to integrate throughout GCP. I think Gemini as a consumer product is having a little bit more of an issue, and they make a lot more money from the consumer part of the business. And so I think Q2, that's also the big thing Sundar is going to have to tell us, is just like, hey, you know, where does he think this search revenue is going, and how can they replicate it in other parts of the business from subscription perspectives, from enterprise perspectives, et cetera, to recoup what they're doing right now. ASTS, that one is still up 5%. That one's up 9%. Okay, so that one definitely going the opposite of Rocket Lab today. Rocket Lab's red, ASTS green, Tesla right here 289, Nvidia 143, SoFi 1426, and then Goog. So Googs and ASTS, Google owns a piece of ASTS as well, which is probably helping them. Getting some love this morning right now. Do you see Snapchat? What's going on with Snapchat? Snapchat. Okay, that's up 5%. Snapchat was at like 930 2 weeks ago. Snapchat again, it's as a day trader should love this stock. It goes in between $8 and $9 pretty much every week. So that one right here, up about 4.3% right now. Rocket Lab goes green. All right, here you go. Rocket Lab moving. Wow, dude, it was it not just at 28? I just clicked on it like literally 2 minutes ago, and it was at 28, and it was red. There you go, 30 on Rocket Lab, and ASTS having a little bit of a better day, but still up 10% on the day. So maybe some of these other space names are getting a bit of a bid right here. And then Reddit's also moving. Reddit right here, 121. Reddit's moving as well. Reddit is green. Affirm's at 60. When did Affirm get to 60? I feel like the last time we saw this was at 45, right? We probably haven't looked at it in a bit. Yeah, it was at 47. Yeah, it was at 45 on May 23rd. Wow, dude, look at that chart since May 23rd. Just a nice little run. This is what I mean, dude. We've had a lot of stocks that have done very well since mid-May, definitely since the end of April. And I just wonder if the next move is up or the next move is consolidating, or is the next move, taking a bit of a breather, which none of us, I think, can necessarily get too upset about. Meta 703. Meta just keeps going higher as well. Meta's not stopping. Intuitive Surgical's down 10%. I don't know why. Let's see if there's a headline. They have earnings usually after hours, so I doubt it's any type of earnings today that's creating any pain for them. Let's see. ISRG. Let's see what's going on with that one. They got downgraded from Deutsche Bank. Okay, yeah, that seems to be the reason. They cut their price by 15%. That's why that one's down. All right, so that one's getting hit from Deutsche Bank. Nebius right here is up 9%. Dude, I think Nebius is trying to go for a core weave. Like, tell me you don't think Nebius is trying to pull a core weave. Now, Nebius at 50 is probably cheaper than core weave at even 100, much less 140. But both data center plays, core weave at 150, it's up 8% of the day, got a massive pump from IPO. Nebius, I feel like could pull a core weave if there's any level of good news announced at GTC over the coming couple of days. Now that doesn't mean it has to, and I wouldn't chase it just to get like a mini core weave type of exposure. But the volatility in the stock and the level of retail audience that's getting excited about it, which is the same with core weave, I think it definitely set up NBIS for a core weave type of a move. And so that definitely could play out. The cruise lines, Norwegian, NCLH, that one just hit $20. That's up 3%. Carnival Cruise, that's at 24. That's also 1% on the day. What earnings do we have this week? This week, today, nothing important. Tomorrow we have GameStop and GitLab. And then we have Chewy. We have Oracle on Wednesday. That's a big one. Then we have Adobe on Thursday. So Oracle and Adobe, I would say, are the big ones this week. Those are the ones that all of us should be looking at. Nebius announced a opening of a UK data center. This was right after NVIDIA said they were going to invest in the UK. There you go. That could definitely be a reason. The CEO tweeted that he has some new updates that he's announcing this week. So that could be pumping the stock as well. But that's helping. And then NVIDIA right here, 143.17. Tesla, still 290. Palantir, 126. Robinhood oscillating between 69 and 70. Amazon, 214. Google, 175. Meta, still holding above 700. And then the Apple event today. That's going to be important. That one's at 204. MP, the rare earth mineral stock, that's going to be an important one as well. MP Materials, that's up 9%. Look, this one has been also very exciting for people that day trade because if you play the headlines correctly, you can short it or go long on it in the midst of whatever Trump says about rare earth minerals, and it can do very well. I think it's going to be very headline oriented, and whatever Basent says today about rare earth minerals, that could definitely lead to another pump as well. And so that's something to look out for on that stock. Oracle right here. Oracle, how much is up Oracle year to date? Oracle 176. I think Oracle's up like 20% year to date, if I'm not wrong. Oracle's up, never mind, 6%. Okay, so Oracle not having the best year from a year to date perspective, but it went to 122 at the lows. So if you got it at 122 or anywhere below that 140 range, you are doing pretty well on this stock as well. USAR, yeah, that's another one like MP. USAR, USA Rare Earth, that's up about 3% here right now as well. Okay, so what are people buying? Are people buying anything? Are you kind of holding on to cash? Circle right here. It's down from 133 to 125. This one feels very bubblish. Not touching this one. If you got it at IPO, congrats, but I would be a little worried chasing this. I don't know if Circle deserves to be a $25 billion company yet. But we are green. And I don't know if that's bullish or bearish that an IPO is doing this well. Like, I want to say that's bullish because IPOs are back, but also, when it's up 300% from the price, is that a bubble or is that just a really good IPO? It feels more like a bubble than a really good IPO. Like up 30%, 40%, whatever. Up 300%, it's like, all right, dude. Like, I guess maybe people are just bored of all the other stocks we got and they're speculating on other stuff. The question is just if those valuations can be justified over the long term. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Circle. We got some people buying hoods, SoFi, got some grabs, got some qubits, got some Arista networks. Thoughts on Lululemon? I mean, I don't think it's a buy, even with the 30% drawdown yet. I haven't gone through all the numbers, but just my raw reaction is that the CEO said tariffs are going to be volatile for them, and they took away their profit guidance. So, most of their clothes come from Vietnam and Thailand and Bangladesh and all these countries that are going to get a 10% tariff minimum, hopefully a little bit less, but still. So I don't know, dude. I think you kind of wait until you get more clarity on this one. Unless the financials are so juicy that I just haven't gone through them yet, so I wouldn't know. But if tariffs are a headwind, you just kind of believe them if they say it's a headwind, And so this one, I don't think is the best opportunity, even though it's down right here. Doug said he bought some Hood. He bought some D-Wave. He bought some Nebius. Oh, a lot of you guys buying Hood. I'll probably be buying Hood today as well. I mean, if it stays in the $70 range, I'll be buying more. Down 5.8% right here. This is actually pretty good price action, dude. Most people felt like it should go back to 60 because it went up from basically 60 on this S&P hype. The S&P hype didn't happen for any company, much less Hood. And it's kind of chilling out at 70. So, look, here's the thing. Is Hood expensive from a multiple perspective? Like, sure, right? I'll give that to some of the bears. But if we hit all-time highs on the S&P 500, what do we think is going to happen to Hood? It's not staying at 70, and I don't think it's going back to 50. If we hit 6,500 on the S&P, which I'm not saying is definitely going to happen, but it feels like the market wants that to happen, and the earnings growth should hopefully justify that, especially if we get some trade deals, some negotiations, some maybe at least one cut. Robinhood's going to be much higher. So even at these levels, even if you're just trying to trade it, much less hold on to it as an investment, I do think we go higher towards the end of the year. And that's why, I wasn't afraid to buy at 72, 73, or 65 or 67. But yeah, that S&P inclusion news, unfortunately, just didn't happen for us yet. 11 straight 1-minute green candles for CoreWeave. I don't know what's in this stock, bro. I have no idea, but it is something else, bro. It's like either retail wanted a new darling to be able to like constantly pump up, or maybe Wall Street's buying it. When you look at their CapEx and their depreciation of that CapEx compared to their revenue, it makes no sense for why people would get so excited about this name outside of the whole data center growth play, which is great. Their growth is amazing, but there are some other tangibles to the business that are not, the best in comparison to their ability to be profitable, because again, they have a lot of CapEx. Street doesn't care, or retail doesn't care. And CoreWeave continues to get this bump. Lyft right here is up about 2%. Uber right here is up about 2.1. Nvidia still holding on to 143.5. Palantir 127. I talked a lot about Palantir last night. I think the quick take I'll give right here is that the brand damage on Palantir is an issue. And, we talk a lot about Tesla brand damage. It's not great to have a company that's seen as like the most evil company in the world by all these different headlines. I don't like it. I don't think it's good for the stock either. So I hope these narratives kind of die out, and I hope there's people that just get bored of it because there's no like definitive kind of master plan that they can attach themselves to. But I don't know. it is a real risk. I think we can't undermine it as a risk. I don't think that means that you sell your Palantir, but as a shareholder, you are conscious of the fact that, hey, a lot of parts of the internet are saying Palantir is some evil company. And that's not something that one can necessarily ignore. So I do think it's a risk. 126.90. Hopefully it's just a narrative that dies out over the long term. One person had a theory, which I don't hate, that, a hedge fund paid the New York Times to put out that article so they could tank the stock and get in at cheaper price. I don't have any proof on that, but it would not surprise me. I would not put it above the New York Times to not take money for certain reasons. And we've seen hedge funds do this all the time. Maybe not through the New York Times, but they find other ways to get a story out there to cause some FUD around the stock so they can get back in. Maybe that's the case, but it's taking a life of its own, this narrative. And hopefully it doesn't become as big as people think it could become. Tesla trying to get back with some momentum at 290. Tesla right here is at 292. So it's holding on. I mean, for the people saying it had to go back to 250, at least that's not happening today. And again, I think if we're in a bull market for the S&P, it's hard for me to imagine that Tesla is below 200. I really don't see that. S&P right here, 599. So I could see Tesla holding on potentially to these levels. The real winners today, Rocket Lab and ASTS, the space names, just doing, wow, Rocket Lab 31. My goodness, dude. Holy crap. 31. This one's not stopping. I have 2,000 shares of Rocket Lab at 22.60. I bought, I think I bought 100 shares at 28.50 like a week ago. So that's my position now. 2,000 shares. I'm holding on to it. And that's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of position I just want to hold for like the next 5 years and not really mess with it. And just see how it plays out. If it goes below the 20s, I would add again, but I think it's holding on really nicely right here. Apple at 205. ASTS is at 34.60. ASTS up 11%. Up 11% right here. Doug says, admit your post started trending for a bear case over the weekend and Tesla isn't yet 250 yet. Lots of appetite for Tesla shares. I agree. And, this is one of the things I was saying in the comments of that post. It was just so funny, dude. It's like you put out a post trying to objectively analyze Tesla and everyone's like, oh, you're a bear. You're spreading FUD. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm trying to buy the dip. I'm trying to find a good entry price as well. And in the comments of that post, one of the things I kept saying is like, I don't think it has to have a meaningful dip because there is tons of appetite for this stock. People at the end of the day want to buy into the Tesla thesis. Like, it's just like people are convinced that this is going to be the big robotics and FSD play, which I'm convinced is as well. I would just like a nice entry price. And so it doesn't have to go lower. Now, granted, we got to get robotaxi updates this week and see if that's happening. But even if it doesn't happen, maybe 280, 275 at worst. Like if those earnings in Q1 couldn't take Tesla down, I'm really curious what does. And, it's down from 370, so it's not like it hasn't fallen. And Trump, Elon saying Trump's on the Epstein list, that was enough to get the stock to really take a hit. But the question is, where does it go from here? And if it actually does get that much lower, which I don't think it has to. I don't think it has to get as bad as what we think. Are you going to have the ASTS discussion? Yes, hopefully on Wednesday. Wednesday with Chris, Sam, and another person as well talking about it. Did you see Jeremy openly calling for people to sell Tesla and heavily bashing the stock? Yeah, and that's that's the difference between me and Jeremy. Jeremy already sold. Jeremy at a $13 average. He's out of Tesla. I think he sold at 250, right? So he's done. He's out of it. I think the difference between me and Jeremy is, if I had a $13 average, I damn sure wouldn't have sold. I would have just been like, hey, these are my lottery tickets. Let's see how it plays out. Maybe Elon pulls this off to 20 trillion. I understand why he sold though. I get why he, didn't want to be in the name anymore. But B, I wouldn't it's funny. He quote tweeted my post and he was like, oh, sell everything, sell Tesla. It's a dumpster fire. And then I'm on the phone last night with my friend who calls me up and he's like, dude, I'm thinking of selling my Tesla. And I'm like, no, don't sell. It's like you have a $50 average. Hold on for right before robotax. But I couldn't walk him off the ledge. He sold, So he's telling people to sell. I'm trying to tell one of my good friends to not sell, who's been in Tesla for a long time. But it points to what my post was about, which is that there is a sentiment shift. And if you're a bull and you can't acknowledge there's a little bit of a sentiment shift, then I think you're just not being objective here. But there is. And the question is just how bad of an impact does that have on the stock? We've already seen the stock go from 360 to 290. So now the question is, really, is there more downside from these levels? Grab holding about $5, which is not too bad. Apple right here at 204, SMCI at 42.48. That one's up about 2%. Uber's up a little bit. AppLovin is also down about 5% with Hood. IBKR down 3%, and Trade Desk also now down 1% on the day. Oracle says, I sold a lot of my Tesla because I'm tired of Elon. You are not alone. A lot of people in the comments on that post pretty much said the same thing. You also had a lot of people disagreeing and said, we're going to trust that Elon finds a way to deal with this and the Trump rift is not that big of a deal. But you also had a lot of people saying they're just tired of this. And I think both perspectives you have to be able to analyze when we're thinking of this. NVTS, how's that one doing? Navitas, that one. Wow, dude, 16%. Holy crap. So that stock year to date now, I think it's up more than 200%. No, 104%. If you got it at the very lows at $2, that it's up almost 300%. But this one, from a semiconductor perspective, doing very well. Obviously, with their NVIDIA partnership that they had last week. Rocket Lab 32. Okay, there you go. Dude, if this is speculation that SpaceX is going to lose contracts, like as much as I'm happy to see Rocket Lab go up, I don't know if there's any truth to SpaceX losing contracts and therefore the street should be rotating to other plays. Like, feels very of the moment to be able to see the price go up on that. By the way, Bitcoin, nasty red candle right there, 107.5 to 107.1. So you got a 400-point candle to the downside right there. But I mean, it's good for Rocket Lab if that's what's happening. It is weird though. Like, it's weird. Like, I mean, is it believable that Trump could cancel SpaceX contracts? Yes. Is it actually going to happen for him to get back at Elon? Like, for the pure, because there wouldn't be a reason to do this because the SpaceX contracts are not performing effectively, right? SpaceX is doing a great job. It would literally be to get back at Elon, which I don't know if Trump's petty enough to do that. I mean, maybe he is, but I would hope he's not. Rocket Lab right here up 10.8% currently right now. Dell's at 115. That's up about 1.4. Palantir's 126, and then NVIDIA 143. Google also, great day on Googs, 175, holding on. Google breaking above 180, I think, would be something that's really important for the street to kind of get past that 160 purgatory that it was stuck at. And it would be nice to see this as well. Space plays are iffy right now. They could dump with one post that SpaceX is keeping all contracts, all dump. Yeah, I agree, 100%. Any argument that SpaceX is not losing their contracts, that could be an easy reason why ASTS and Rocket Lab get sold off as well. Why is their article saying Grab acquisition of GoTo canceled? It is because Grab themselves came out today and they said they're not trying to buy GoTo. Which, again, I think there's more to that story, but that is the reason why you're seeing those articles here today. Chris says give him a call. All right, let's call Chris. Let's get some of his thoughts on what's going on in this markets. I don't think we have any crazy macro data today. Tomorrow, we'll get more data. And then we get CPI on Wednesday. So we'll have more data from that perspective as well.
Please call back later.
You said send him a StreamYard? All right, cool. Let me send him a StreamYard. I'll do that instead. I sold my 1,000 Tesla shares. I'm tired of Elon. Dude, I saw that comment a lot this weekend. And maybe that's going to be the wrong decision because Tesla goes back to 350. Maybe that's going to be the right decision because Tesla goes below 250. But to say that there are not people that have been in the stock for a while that are just getting fed up with it is ignoring reality. You don't have to agree with what they're doing, but there are absolutely different perspectives here in terms of how this is playing out. Archer's over 11. All right, Archer. So Cathie Wood owns 5% of Archer now. That was disclosed on Friday. And then Trump signed an executive order to get rid of some of the eVTOL regulations, which was super good. Oh, that's also probably why Joby was up this morning. So that also was great for the eVTOL stocks. Joby right here up 11% after being up 20% last week as well. If everyone is selling like Tesla, who is buying, it's not dipping like crazy. Well, I mean, there would be other retail that's buying, right? So yeah, like that's the point. It's like, although some people are selling, there's plenty of appetite for these shares. And it's kind of evening itself out. But nonetheless, you do have people that, kind of just don't want to be in it right now. Sachin says, I've actually sent a message to the private equity company where I hold SpaceX shares that I need exit from SpaceX as soon as possible. If all goes right, we'll be out by the end of the year. Wow. There you go. Sachin, if I'm not wrong, is sitting on a 4 to 5x on SpaceX. He got into this, I think, like 5 years ago. There you go, dude. This is what I'm saying, right? This is the point I was trying to make on Twitter. It's just like there is a little bit of a sentiment shift. And for someone like Sachin, who got in very early on SpaceX, is trying to get the hell out of it, there's a little bit of a shift in terms of how people are thinking of Elon, his companies, his businesses right now. And that doesn't mean these stocks have to go to zero, but it does mean, hey, it's important to just take a look at the different perspective that we got going on right now when it comes to Elon and the overall Tesla SpaceX ecosystem that we see from Elon. Kris, good morning. How are you?
Good, man. Just I was trading really quickly in this morning market, trying to get some new positions going that I've been looking at, but I think I finally had the courage to pull the trigger. So
okay, tell us. This is good. Breaking news. What'd you buy?
Nah, bro, it's a Patreon exclusive. At least give my Patreon folks at least like 48 hours to digest all this stuff before I start giving out real stuff. Sorry, guys. This is how it is. But no, ASTS, man, that one was just on another level of like, if only people understood the business model that these guys have, this is going to be a long-term monster, man. Like free cash flow wise, it's going to do amazing. And I'm telling you, there has been a lot of due diligence that's been done on this, not just by me, but like a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
we'll do the stream on Wednesday and we'll officially, get your DD out there.
Yeah. Now, I got to be honest. The one that I am super impressed with is all the DD that Sam did. And dude, Sam went crazy just going to every podcast he could about Nebius. It's like, y'all are missing this. He did your podcast. He did the thing with Tanner and Tevis. He went on like any platform he could have, and he spoke to me about it. And dude, I think the Nebius play was fucking killer. And I think
did you get in or no? Are you in this?
Yeah, I'm in, but I'm only in with shares. I feel like I wish I had some stock, man. Yeah. No,
but this is the beautiful thing about retail, right? He got on my channel at $30, really shared his due diligence, and whoever took a chance, it's free equity research for people to take advantage of.
Exactly. And like I said, Sam actually works in the industry, so it's kind of interesting to see someone who's in there giving you like this due diligence is on another level, man. Same thing with the other company, Rubric. I mean, bro, he's killed it with Rubric too. So it just goes to show that like, create a community of people around you that are in the know, and you'll get so many opportunities to do well.
Okay, so this new position, I know you got to give it to your Patreon folks first, but what sector is it in?
Healthcare.
Interesting. I don't know if a lot of you guys in the chat would want to be in healthcare. That tends to be a less sexy industry, but maybe that's why you're going after it, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some structural changes that are coming in healthcare, and basically you just have to understand how things work, and like businesses have a lot of flexibility to do what they need to do to get to where they got to go. So it's nothing too complicated, to be honest with you. It's just a business moving in a direction that gives it the ability to recover from where it is today. So I'm pretty sure I gave away too much already, but
dude, it's Oscar Health. We know it's Oscar Health.
It's not Oscar Health, but
not?
you can keep trying to guess and get it out of me, but I'm not doing that. Sorry. Nah, bro. But just this market.
It's not UNH. I know you didn't buy UNH, that's for sure.
It could be. You never know. No, it could be Pfizer. It could be Moderna. It could be so many things. I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna give it away. Like I said, it's for the folks that dude. There's so many people that like reach out, and we get to talk about things, and I get to kind of share my information.
It's hymns. You're finally in hymns. That's what it is.
It's not hymns.
Okay, give me your thoughts on Tesla. What do you think is going on right now with this stock?
All right. So I think you laid it out. You laid the case out pretty much as clear as anyone could put it. There's a lot of risks when it comes to the politics, and because of that, the sales numbers on their autos are going to look like trash. And if they look like trash, what are you going to do? How's the market going to respond to that?
Well, the thing is, they were trashing Q1 already, and the market didn't care. So at what point?
But Elon's good at really projecting confidence, and the thing is that confidence can really boost, that conference can really boost up the stock prices, right? So, Tesla trades on sentiment. It doesn't trade on fundamentals. If you look at this company on a fundamental basis, Jeremy is 100% right. He called it out. He's like, look, their business is slowing down. It's not growing nearly as fast as it was in the past. Valuation is extended. And the main categories that are supposed to lead them to the next phase of growth are robotics and robotaxi, which are at least 3 to 5 years away from adding any money to the bottom line, and both of those things are going to require a lot of upfront capex. So, and at the same time, you've got the sentiment shift with the Trump administration. So, I don't know. I'd say probably just chill and relax. And, I think Tesla, if it goes below 150, it's definitely in like a buying zone. Like I would personally buy some,
Yeah, I just don't think it gets that low. But I mean, who knows, right? There could be a chance.
Yeah.
Vlad right here just tweeted, heading to the White House for the Invest America 24 Summit. This is an initiative to give every child born in America $1,000 in brokerage account. I was lucky enough to discover investing at a young age, and it quite literally changed my life. Imagine the possibilities that every American child gets the same opportunity.
Dude, I would love to see Robinhood be able to open an account like this. And actually, it's actually funny because I was buying the company that I was talking to you about under my wife's name, and I was like, "Hey, babe, let me log in real quick," because she's got the dual factor authentication on, so I'm like logging into her account just to get her. So I have to figure out a way to like get in there much easier if I need to make a move without having to ask her and to bother.
You should just have a joint account with her. They do have joint accounts, you could just do that.
Yeah, I think we created that one before they had joint accounts, so it's just kind of sitting there. Yeah.
All right, cool. Good stuff, Kris. We will talk to you over the coming days. Well, we're going to Google right here, 176. We're going to do that ASTS stream, so I'll hit you up for the details. Yeah. But Wednesday night.
Did anyone else reach out to you about that?
Yeah, I have one guy on Twitter. I'm going to put us in a group chat who's a big bull, and we're going to set that up with everybody.
Man, just because the chat is a bunch of haters. It is UNH, but I'm not gonna give you like what the.
There you go. Good peer pressure, guys.
I know, bunch of goons, bro. Like, Kris,
to be fair,
I hate Kris for not giving them information.
Kris,
It's UNH. UNH is very undervalued for where it is today. It's trading.
Kris, to be fair, you can't come on the show and then say you have a pick and then not give out the pick. I'm just saying, like, it's like you're naturally, even if you have a good reason, you're gonna piss off everybody. So. You kind of walked into that one yourself.
That is kind of true. I'll be honest. That it's just I feel bad because there are people on my Patreon that like I give like I totally agree with that. But then just don't say you have a pick that's exclusive for Patreon. Like don't even mention it. That is a good point. That was a pretty dick move. But if you want the quick thesis on UNH, I'll give it to you. I haven't even really put it on the Discord yet, but
give me like the 3-minute pitch on UNH.
They've got their former CEO back. They've got a lot of areas where they can kind of pull levers to get this company to kind of get back to somewhat reasonable valuations, right? So a lot of this is just really oversold conditions that you're going to see some structural changes that bring some more profitability. Like if you look at something that they did today, if you look at UNH headlines, they were able to get out of Latin America, which was like a money loser for them. So they're going to be focused right now, laser focused on pretty much bringing up efficiencies and then taking that excess capital that they have and pretty much dumping it into share buybacks, And so if you just do like a 5-year chart of this thing, you can see that this is a massively profitable company. It's got a very wide moat. It's got a business in Optum that's actually very, very attractive. And so they have the ability to spin it off if they really want to eventually. I mean, there are some regulatory changes that they might be, they might get scrutinized with. But I think over the next couple of years, these guys they'll recover nicely, in which case, it'll be good to be in it and just chill.
So, this is such a classic Kris trade because they're calling you Taco Kris. because it's mean reversion. And I know you love mean reversion. And so fair value is probably what, 500 on UNH. And so
you never know. I'm not going to give that away, right? That's the one thing I will keep to myself. Sorry.
Yeah, you can keep your strikes on the options you're
Yeah.
to. But the point is, like, if it's closer to 500, you get some options on this thing. It can do very well over the next couple of years.
Yeah, the key here to remember for any mean reversion plays is that you have to try to figure out like the time frame on that mean reversion, right? And then also what the current valuation is and what it should be and what people are going to be willing to pay for it. When a company goes into like stink mode, where people are just overly bearish on it, that's usually a good sign that you can actually pick things up rather cheap, where people are not recognizing the value. And there's that saying, don't buy broken stocks. I mean, don't buy broken companies, just buy broken stocks. So I think this one is not necessarily a broken company. It's just a broken stock, in which case there's a lot more of a chance that we see, sort of a mean reversion play. I mean, look at what happened to Robinhood, right? Like Robinhood, it dropped down to the 30s during the nonsensical thing with the trade tariffs, but overall business is not impacted and it went up. So even if, let's say, we get a recession, one of the things that people tend to do is go hide in insurance. And this was a mega cap company. This is not like a small company. You're talking about $200 billion company with 100 million people that they insure. Okay. It's not a small amount of people. And not to mention they can jack up premiums if they need to.
How long
And
have you been studying UNH?
probably a week or two, and I've reached out to a few friends that work at Change Healthcare, which is owned by Optum and all the other stuff. So one of the beneficiaries that you're going to see is this huge optimization wave coming in healthcare, right? There's a lot of processes that are still being done very manual based. And so a lot of that automation will end up benefiting their bottom line. So technically it is going to end up benefiting, the end, like the patients at the end of the day, but it also makes the business a lot more efficient. So AI integration is going to be a key part of their core focus going forward. So, and like I said, it's a recession resistant kind of business because it's like, okay, a recession's here. Does people just randomly go and cancel their insurance? Like, no, that's not how it works. So,
Yeah.
and then if the Trump administration is able to get drug prices to kind of come down, these guys will benefit from some of that as well. So,
Look, I don't hate it. I don't know about it as much as you do, but that chart looks pretty ugly over headlines versus anything fundamental. And if you're saying, if you believe there's nothing fundamental that's structurally stopping them from, producing the cash flows they produce, then the market eventually will recover on this one, I think.
yeah. And not to mention when you have these, one of the things I'll teach you guys about, not teach you, but I'll just say about options. Whenever you see massive dips like this, what tends to happen is the call options on a short leg tend to go down pretty significantly,
Yeah.
but the short leg don't go down nearly as much on a percentage basis. So what happens is that short leg ends up actually subsidizing your long leg very, very heavily. So if you remember what happened with the regional banks with Truist, right? Truist fell from, I think in the 50s all the way down to 28. One of the reasons why we were able to buy a $15 spread for $2 was because so much of our upside was like so much of our long leg was subsidized by that short leg that our entry was freaking literally garbage. Like we paid barely anything for it.
We paid pennies.
And remember what happened to it?
Yeah. 7x. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just goes to show that sometimes you gotta, just understand. Now, here's the thing: if UNH really had a lot of major problems that, from a regulatory standpoint, could screw their entire business, then yeah, we got a problem here, and you typically don't want to be in it. But I think right now they're still under some level of investigation for Medicare Advantage and all that stuff. But I think a lot of that stuff is going to get resolved. And these guys have enough cash to, buy back pretty much, I think, almost like 10% of their shares per year if they wanted to. And they've got a dividend that's pretty massive. So there's going to be people that are going to be looking to buy this thing up. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some 13Fs in the next quarter that shows hedge funds picking this thing up,
Got it.
So in that regard,
Chris.
got a nice move up. So
All right.
by the way, criminal anytime I see criminal investigations, quote unquote, that's just the government saying, "Hey, listen, we got to slap you on the wrist. We'll basically get you guys to pay a little bit of money to close out all these deals, right? And say that, look, we did some enforcement action. But if you're generating 22, 25 billion dollars, $1 billion hit in the bottom line to pay the DOJ off to quote unquote close like bad practices, you got yourself, really strong upside, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, I think their free cash flows are going to be enough to deal with any parking tickets they have to pay as well. All right, cool. So Wednesday, we'll set up that stream, guys, for ASTS, probably Wednesday night, like around 9 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll get Chris's thesis on that as well.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
All right, Kris. Good stuff. Talk to you soon. All right. So UNH. I don't know. Got to look deeper into that one, but it seems like that's the one Kris is excited about right here at 306. Definitely is more of a Kris play, given that one is down a lot from where it was. Dude, I was just about to buy Hood at freaking $69.50. This thing jumped up to $70, dude. My goodness. Let's see if it gets back into that $69 range. But I was going to buy 100 shares right at $69.50, and as soon as I went to type it in, we could bounce up to 70.11. So let's see if we get back there. But Robinhood holding on to this $70 range. I think the worst we got today was $68.40 for just like a little bit, $68.60. And then we kind of bounce back up. Here's an update from the White House, and then we'll keep going from there. Oops, my bad. Let me try it again. It's been a week since we've been in the studio. My bad. Hold on. Okay, let me know if it works now.
Meeting their Chinese counterparts. That's happening right now in London. And those are high-level trade talks. Megan Casella joins us. She has the latest for us. Good morning, Megan.
Hey, David, good morning. I think we can pull up for you here a live look at the location in London where these two delegations are meeting. On the U.S. side, that's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and the U.S. Trade Rep Jamieson Greer, all over there meeting with the Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng, leading negotiations on their side. Now, unlike Geneva, we are not really expecting any major breakthroughs here, and that's simply because there isn't low-hanging fruit the way there was back then. These tariffs have already been agreed to be lowered. What today and this week seems to be about is more about putting things in writing that both sides seem to have thought that they agreed to back in Geneva. So on the U.S. side, they really want to see things moving on the rare earths. On the Chinese side, they want to see the U.S. Lessening up on their semiconductor export controls. That's really the focus here. Here's Kevin Hasset laying out his expectations for today on Squawk Box earlier this morning.
Our expectation is that after the handshake, then immediately after the handshake, any export controls from the U.S. will be eased and the rare earths will be released in volume, and then we can go back to negotiating smaller matters.
So having to figure out these big issues, I should say, before they move on to other things, that could be most of what we get from this London round of talks. Now, one indication of how they go could simply be how long these talks last. Hasset described what he's expecting as a short meeting with a strong handshake. So maybe we get some more details later today. I will say for the Chinese side, they did announce that their lead negotiator will be in the UK through the 13th. So maybe that's for other meetings, but that could give him some time to stick around in case these meetings do need to be extended further. Guys.
Dude, this is going to be an important one. If we get a... Why is my battery exhausted? This thing was charging all night. Why is it being weird? Let's see. Back in the studio, just trying to get everything working again. But if this is a meeting that's only, call it, I don't know, an hour, a couple hours, and they agree to a handshake or whatever, and that handshake then immediately is able to then lift off the export controls, which is what she was just talking about. I think that would be pretty bullish because that means they didn't need to agree on a lot of things. They didn't need to go through a ton of negotiations. They just both came to the table and said, hey, we both understand and acknowledge that we're needing to move forward, right? And we need to stop beating around the bush, essentially. So I think the shorter the meeting, the better, in my opinion. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, as long as the meeting gets done, they agree to what they need to agree with. They don't have to have too many stipulations on either side. That can get us moving forward. And we're going to find out. I mean, the time in London right now is what, 12 p.m.? No, 3 p.m. Okay, 3 p.m. I would say in the next 2 hours, we're going to get some details. And if we get some details, then those details hopefully are rather bullish for how this trade deal is turning out. Tesla right here, 294. Robinhood back at 70.23. And then NVIDIA still holding 144. Again, you got 1.5 million shares at 145. Now, NVIDIA, the export controls on NVIDIA are not going to go away anytime soon, even if they have a handshake agreement. But we're going to get closer to the beginning of that NVIDIA China revenue coming back. Probably not in Q2, but maybe in Q3. And as long as that's still on the table, I think the street's going to be very excited about the implications of a trade deal for NVIDIA. Meta back at 703 as well. Just might take some time. Tessie goes green. There she is, 295.50. 295.50. Pounter as well, going green. 127.81 on the day. There you go. Both of these stocks kind of holding on right now. Rocket Lab was hitting 32 when Kris was talking, dude. 32.23. Look at that. It was at 32.50. Bitcoin went to 107.1, right back to 107.6. That's probably the reason HUD's getting a little bit of a pump right now as well. And then SoFi 1443. Google. Let me check resistance at 176 on Google, but Google's trying to hold on to that 176 level. Grab still holding just above 5 here right now as well. Google 176 resistance is did we hit 176 already? Yeah, we did. Oh, there is no 176.47. We already hit that. So 177 resistance is about 10,000 shares, which is not that crazy. Not that crazy at all. Is the robo-taxi event confirmed on June 12th? No, it is not. AMD right here, 121. That's up 4%. There's no confirmation of that. Maybe Tesla's not doing any flyers or special invitations or whatever. Maybe they're just going to do the event. But, you know, it might take a couple days for us to see if there's any level of confirmation on it. Okay, Nebius, how's that one still doing? Again, CoreWeave, Nebius, wow, 54.65. That's still up 13.2%. Tesla, 295. SoFi, 1441. And then CoreWeave, that one's holding on to 11% on the day. My goodness, bro. My freaking goodness. And then Navitas, that's up as well. Navitas is up as well. All right, so I guess this kind of like culmination of what's happening today is indices are flat, individual names are moving. Tesla's trying to figure out if it's going to hold this 295 level. Back above 300, I think would be super bullish for Tesla just to psychologically get above that range. Very possible. Could also see it falling right back to 285. I think both of those are, you know, equal probabilities. But it's not really tanking, as people said, and it's not mooning as well. So you got a stock that's relatively flat. And then NVIDIA, I guess GTC is the core catalyst right here, 144. Market wants this thing maybe higher at around 145. Oscar's down 3%. No, I did not do my... I really thought Kris was going to say Oscar, to be honest. By the way, you guys, peer pressure in the chat. Phenomenal peer pressure. That was great. I've told Kris this before, dude. I've told him, like, dude, if you have something exclusive for your Patreon, tell your Patreon and then tell the chat. But don't come on the stream and try to hide it from the chat because you're just going to piss people off. Like, I've told him, we've had this conversation. I was like, dude, you're going to piss people off. Like, don't do it. And then this morning, he goes ahead and does it. And I'm like, all right, people are going to be mad at you. It is what it, like, it's just human nature. Like, people don't like that shit. And so you guys did a good job making him feel bad and got him to tell us what it is, UNH. But I thought it was going to be Oscar. I really did. This one seems also like a Kris play in terms of just how undervalued it is compared to their margin profile and to their revenue growth rate. I still have not had any time to do DD on this. I had to go to a family dinner or family lunch yesterday for like 5 hours. So my Sunday was completely gone. And Saturday I just went to sleep because I did not sleep all week. But I still have to look deeper into this one. I know it's picking up a lot of momentum on retail names, but this one down about 3.5%. UNH at 306, 304 currently right now. Dude, the Kako trade is hilarious. That's actually hilarious, dude. Next time Kris says something but doesn't want to tell us Kako, that's the trade. That's the trade. That's hilarious, bro. That's hilarious. The Invest America Trump event is at 2 p.m. Okay, I definitely want to stream that. I didn't know they were. So Vlad said he was on the way to that. I think that's in DC. Brad Gerstner's probably going to be there. I didn't know they were doing that event live. Okay, cool. So the Apple event's at 1. I'll try to stream Apple, but if they don't let us, I will definitely try to stream this Invest America event, because I think that will be a exciting event for people as well. Trying to see what's going on. All right, let's get an update on what's going on in LA. We definitely got some issues here. I know if you're not in America, this might not affect you as much, but still, this could have an impact on broader markets and just kind of the stability of the Trump administration. So let's just get an update there, and then we'll keep going from there.
Well, hey there. Yeah, I mean, right now it's a little bit of a temporary moment of calm after what's been an extremely tense night here and really weekend here in downtown LA. This area has now been deemed an unlawful assembly area. This is some of the damage from these protests yesterday. This was a Waymo car that was lit on fire. We were here yesterday as protesters set multiple Waymo cars on fire. We saw protesters flood the Interstate Highway 101, shutting down traffic in both directions, getting into intense clashes with police who deployed pepper spray, tear gas, rubber bullets to try to disperse the crowds. All of this erupting after ICE immigration raids over the past several days here in LA. President Trump bringing in the National Guard, bypassing the state. Governor Newsom here opposed to this, and he lashed out at President Trump for doing so. Take a listen.
Donald Trump has created the conditions you see on your TV tonight. He's exacerbated the conditions. He's, lit the proverbial match. He's putting fuel on this fire ever since he announced he was taking over the National Guard. An illegal act, an immoral act, an unconstitutional act, and we're going to test that theory with a lawsuit tomorrow.
And we should say it is an extremely rare move by the Trump administration to do this. The last time an administration bypassed a state to do this was in 1965, when then President Lyndon B. Johnson brought in Alabama National Guards to protect civil rights protesters. So as that feud continues, though, we are continuing to try to get a sense of what might happen today. We said it's calm right now, but President Trump and his border czar have said that they do plan to continue with these ICE raids. Whether or not they happen today remains to be seen. But the president says if these clashes continue, he'll not only bring in the National Guard, but also is ready to deploy Marines here as well. Back to you.
This is going to be an interesting story to see how it ends up playing out. I mean, look, I don't know what Waymo did. Why'd they have to burn the Waymos, bro? Like, you would think they would burn down some Teslas, right? Because in general, those types of people aren't a fan of Elon, but they they went after Sundar. And I feel like Sundar, that 50 Cent meme of like, what did I do? I think Sundar is just like, wait a second. Why are y'all mad at me? Like, what did I do? So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this meme right here. This is Sundar, bro. This is Sundar this morning. He's like, why are they mad at me? It's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't support Trump. I didn't say anything. But look, overall, there is a growing sentiment in this country around illegal immigration that, and if you're not from America, this is kind of just like, this is at least my take on it as an American citizen. You've got half of the country that thinks that we have open borders and that we need to be able to close our borders. And that also includes rounding up people that came here illegally and sending them back. And they obviously voted for Trump. And that was, I would say that and the economy were the two big agenda items that Trump went for, right? So you got half of America that probably doesn't care about the fact that ICE is raiding all these different places in Los Angeles and trying to deport people. You got another half of the country that's like, it's humane, it's inhumane, it's unbelievable, it is sad to see, and that it is not an American, I guess you could call it, nation that people want to support if you are rounding up people and just literally taking them out of the country, right? Especially if those people are paying taxes and those people are not criminals, yada, yada. Now, the Trump's argument is that, hey, we can't have a border if we don't respect our border laws, and we need to ultimately give justice to the people that are on the list that are waiting to get here legally and take away the people that have come here illegally, even if they're not committing violent crimes. They initially committed a violent crime by coming here illegally. And that's where the country is divided on right now. And obviously there's going to be protesters on the other side of this that are upset about this. Now, does that mean burn down a Waymo? I mean, no, not in my opinion, I think that's not like the best idea. Protest all you want, right? This country is built on protesting. This country is built on the idea to go against what the regime in power is saying, and that's a good thing at the end of the day to engage in that civil liberty. But I think if you take it to the point where it gets super violent, and then it's just like Trump has to call the National Guard, it becomes a whole mess. So I don't know. I think most sensible Americans feel like we should have legal immigration, but I think a lot of Americans also think, hey, maybe we don't round up people that are like just living their normal life in the country and not doing any illegal crimes and sending them back. I think the Trump administration would push back and say, no, they're going after people uniquely that are committing illegal crimes or that have a history record of committing crimes, et cetera. I think we're going to have to get more details on that. But that's the situation right now. And I think to an extent, the country is pretty divided on that. And, this was just in LA. This is going to be happening all over the country. We had Minnesota protests as well this week because there were some ICE raids. And so over the coming days, I think we're going to find out how this plays out. NVIDIA right here, 144.65. NVIDIA might make a run for 145 today. Might make a run for 145. Newsom did have a little bit of a spin on it, though. Newsom definitely had a bit of a spin in terms of how he's thinking about this. This is going to be Newsom's first test going up against Trump. And Newsom's obviously running in 2028, so he will try to politicize this as much as he can and try to get, the media coverage on his side. But there's definitely going to be a back and forth on both levels. And again, look, I just think there's a lot of nuances to this. Wow, Robinhood trying to get back to 71 right here, 70.90 yen. But I think there's definitely nuances from both levels. Do we need a secure country with borders? Yes. Do we also need to be rounding up people that aren't committing crimes? You might have some people saying yes because they need to go back. You might have some other people saying it's inhumane. And ultimately, the Trump administration is going to try to impose their agenda. They are being unapologetic about that agenda. Trump has been tweeting many times over the past 24 hours. It's just like, hey, I don't care what you guys think. I will send the National Guard, but you need to let us do our job when it comes to immigrations and customs enforcement as well. Apple right here, 205.5. That's up about 1%. Tessie, 293. Robinhood back to 71, baby. Back to 71. There you go. 71. Let's see if I can hold on to it. It's been just stuck between 69 and 70 all day. Would not surprise me if we close below 69, but it has been holding on. Look, dude, if we don't get into the S&P and the worst we had to deal with was 71, I'll take that any day of the week. I'll take that any day of the week. Give me freaking 71, even if we don't get into the S&P. But not having to be sent back to the 60s, I think is nice. AMD 122. AMD, I don't know why AMD is getting a pump. Like, NVIDIA is getting a pump because of GTC. I guess AMD is also in Paris, and then maybe they're pumping off that. I don't think there's any headline for AMD. But both of these semiconductor names getting some love. ICE was grabbing some people at graduations. We don't have to be a-holes about it. Yeah, look, I've seen some pretty nasty videos as well of ICE, going in. Like, it's kind of crazy, right? If you're a parent and your kid is graduating and yes, you are undocumented, and then ICE comes during graduation and takes you away. Like, that stuff, it's hard to see. Like, as a human, it's hard to see that. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. But on the other hand, this is one thing I will acknowledge very, very seriously. I am lucky to live in a neighborhood where I'm in a nice little suburb in New Jersey where I don't have to worry about illegal immigration or gang violence or any stuff like that. If you're in a neighborhood and it's an inner city neighborhood and there's a lot of illegal immigration and that illegal immigration is resulting in crime, there are plenty of neighborhoods like this in the United States, you probably have a different perspective here. You're probably like, you know what, round up all of them and take them out of the country because this can't keep happening anymore. And I think that's who Trump is referencing when he talks about this type of stuff. But then there's obviously the optics of how they're doing it. That is also, something that is heavily debated. So it's an incredibly nuanced thing, and I don't think it's going to end anytime soon, but it is one of those parts of the first 6 months of the Trump administration that he's going to have to deal with from an optics perspective. Because, you're going to have a sort of conflicting narrative going back and forth between how we should think about illegal immigration. NVIDIA right here got to 144.80, dude. I think she wants 145. I think she's really trying to go for it. 144.77. Let me check resistance again. 1.424 million shares. 1,424,000 shares at 145. So that's $145 million, basically. And All right, so we need 145 million to get past that wall. Dude, look at that, 144.90. Come on, bro. Usually on NVIDIA, we don't get this close to the next dollar and then just like not touch it. I mean, if we're this close, the buying pressure is obviously here right now. And it looks like there's a shot to hit above. If we hit 145, I'm ringing the bell. We haven't rung the bell in the past couple of days for a stock milestone. So we'll be ringing the bell if we can see 145. Where do I check the resistance? So again, I use Robinhood to check the resistance. Let me just pull it up right here to show you guys. If you have Robinhood, you can click on the yellow candle inside of the app, and then it opens up the resistance right here. So this is, you guys can see this right here. This is at 145. You can see 1,402,239,600 or 719 shares. So at 145, we got to break through that number to get above it. I bought more NVIDIA on Friday at 140, dude. I am starting to feel zero hesitation with buying NVIDIA. Like, this is just becoming obvious to me. Oh, I showed you guys the stat last night, but for those that didn't miss it, by the way, UBS said Apple's iPhone demand is slipping. U.S. purchase intent drops to 17%, the lowest in 5 years. In China, it's down to 16% from 22%. They see iPhone shipments being flat in 2026 at 225 million and 223 million at 2025. So UBS is saying, hey, we don't really see the growth story in iPhones right now. And that's something I think Apple's going to have to combat later when they try to explain why AI will continue to be a growth catalyst for them. Okay, so Cursor AI, I shared this last night. This is a company that is an AI coding assistant. They just 5x'd their revenue in 5 months. Let me say that again. They 5x'd their revenue in 5 months. 100 million in January, 500 million in June. It's the fastest company ever to go from 0 to 500 million. They just raised 900 million in funding. I wish there was a way to get into this round because this company looks like it's a $100 billion company. Right now, they're valued at 10 billion. And all of this is because of NVIDIA. All of this is because of GPUs. All of this is because of more models that are being trained. And all of this is because AI coding assistants, which is just one type of assistant that, we're going to have tons of assistants in the future. But this one assistant has been able to get a use case to the tune of $500 million in revenue in the past 5 months when they were barely doing 100 million back in January. I mean, it is just insanity. So the reason I bring that up is because if we have more cursors, more companies that are able to go from 0 to at least 100 million in a short period of time, because of the AI tailwind that all of us are seeing happen in front of us, NVIDIA's not stopping. NVIDIA's not stopping. 10 cents away. Here you go. 144.90. We hit 144.94. 5 to 10 cents away. Let's see. Nasir says this is a clear bubble. Their product is just a clone of Microsoft solution. I don't know if I would call it a bubble. Like, there's been plenty of Microsoft products that have been replicated, like Teams, right? Zoom is not a full replication of Teams, but to an extent it is from the video perspective. And Zoom is still a really good product, right? And they obviously have a good business, even if it's not like a super fast growing business. I think product execution and adoption and their go-to-market has been spectacular. And it's probably, Microsoft probably is a big company. They can't focus on just their AI coding assistant. Cursor has been able to focus on it. I mean, I don't know how you get into half of the Fortune 500 and do $500 million of revenue in 5 months if this is just a copycat product that Microsoft has, And if that's the case, they've got the best marketing in the world. But it feels a little bit more legit. And the point is, even if it is just a copycat of Microsoft, Google, all these guys will end up doing the same thing, which means, yeah, maybe it's not good for Cursor, the stock, but it's definitely good for the overall industry and the reliance on NVIDIA. We are 2 cents away, folks. 2 cents away from 145. 2 cents away. Let's see. ARR is not revenue. ARR stands for annual recurring revenue. I'm not sure what you're talking about. ARR stands for annual recurring revenue. 2 cents away, still 1.4 million shares. 1.4 million shares that we're waiting. Let's see, bro. Let's see if we get it. But again, going back to my point, it doesn't matter if Cursor is a copycat of Microsoft or Google's coding assistant. The whole industry is growing. And the whole industry is going to need more NVIDIA chips if these AI coding assistants at every company become super big. All right, 1 cent. Here we go. Come on. Give it to us. Give it to us. Someone buy 1.4 million shares, bro. Let's do it. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Let's get to 145. Let's make it happen. It's such a tease, bro. Such a tease. You guys didn't see it yet, right? I didn't see it yet. Legend didn't see it. Let me check if Weeble saw it. Weeble, Nvidia. No, Weeble. Okay, Weeble said it touched it. Legend is saying it did not touch it. I still see that wall. If Weeble's saying we touched it, then that means that wall might be broken through pretty soon. But we are so close. IBKR said it showed it. Okay, so maybe Robin is lagging a little bit, but if your broker just showed 145, then this wall should be taken down pretty soon. We should get there. Who says Cursor is just a copycat of Microsoft Copilot? Do you use it? I use Cursor daily, have a Copilot sub. It's night and day, not even close. Yeah, someone in the chat said it is. I don't use both products, but I'm just looking at the numbers. And as an investor, I don't know how you say something's a copycat if they're doing 500 million. Like, it's just not that easy to be a copycat and break 500 million in 5 months. So, but my point is, even if it is a copycat, the whole industry is growing, and that's bullish for NVIDIA. And if it's not a copycat, then Cursor could be a $100 billion company if they're going to keep up this growth. I mean, this growth is just unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. Dude, I don't see it. You guys, I know you guys are seeing it in certain places, but like, we didn't really break through enough to say we hit 145. I mean, maybe we touched it for a second, but that wall, look at this. That wall is still there. Now it's 1.43 million. That wall is still there. It has not been taken off yet. Amit, I work closely with Microsoft and Cursor. Want to give you an even more interesting fact. Cursor has only 25 employees and is less than 2 years old. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. That's a big, like, that's a big part of the Cursor thesis. That's actually, you know, Derek is building his startup, and he's kind of looking at Cursor as a model of how lean the team can be. And I think his startup has less than 30 employees as well. And he wants to keep it less than 30 for the next couple of years. You know, he really wants that average revenue per employee to be in the tens of millions. Because in the world of AI, you know, AI can do a lot of the stuff that you would hire other employees for. So they're doing 500 million in revenue with 25 people. I mean, goodness, dude, imagine having even half of a percent of equity in that company as a early employee. Most of them probably have anywhere from 1% to 3%. That's got to be exciting. It's got to be incredibly exciting. Dude, I still see the wall. We did not break through 145. We did not break through it. That wall is still there. And I mean, Weeble is showing it, but it's showing it for like a literal millisecond, and then it went away. So I don't think we can claim victory over 145 yet. I don't think we can claim victory yet. Trump lets Besant levy tech sale controls in China talks. Wall Street Journal. What does that mean? Trump lets Besant levy tech sale controls in China talks. As in, what does tech sale controls mean? What does that mean? Levy tech sale controls. What do you guys think that means? NVIDIA chip sales? Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of, but Hasset said they're not talking about NVIDIA today. All right, I guess tech sales has to be NVIDIA, right? Using NVIDIA chips as a bargaining chip? Yeah, that makes the most sense. Tanner said chips. Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. So if Besant's going to be using NVIDIA as leverage in the meetings today, that's a good thing for NVIDIA. Maybe that's also why NVIDIA is getting a little bit of a pump. The market knows that, hey, there might be a resolution to these export controls, even though Hasset said today they're not talking about it. But if that's the case, that could definitely be bullish for NVIDIA. Tesla right here, 294, Robin at 70 pound to 127. I mean, if Besant's able to come up with an agreement to give China the H20 chips again, but China has to buy, I don't know, a couple $100 billion of our soybeans or whatever, like, or, you know, something that could really be good for the United States, and we sell them some more chips. That would be massive for NVIDIA, dude. I think NVIDIA, like 150 is on the table pretty easily at that point. Because then the China revenue comes back, then the earnings estimates come back, and Jensen's probably had this kind of plan with Trump for a while. I mean, the reason he went to the White House was probably to figure out how they were going to game plan navigating China, which is why Jensen has done a phenomenal job playing both sides of the aisle. This is like the opposite of Elon, right? Elon's isolating everybody. Jensen's like working with China. He's working with the United States, working with Trump, working with Europe. He's in Europe, you know, in Paris right now. Like, he's trying to find a way to navigate all these different countries. And get them to actually understand that AI is important and crucial in every element. But in the midst of that, also make sure that every country reaches their own strategic deal as well. Yeah, rare earths, that could be a leverage that Bessent tries to go for as well, which would be very important. But I mean, dude, Jensen is doing an incredible job right now. Were we supposed to get the Atlanta Fed data right now? Hold on, let me see. That's today, right? Atlanta Fed. I think we get it in. I think we get it at 11. We get it in 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes. We're gonna get Atlanta Fed. Last time they said 4.6%, folks. Last time they said 4.6%. I think they're gonna bring that down. I mean, if they bring it up, then it's gonna be insane. But in about 15 minutes, we should get the new update. All right, Nvidia's getting hit. It's not getting through 145. Just not getting there. Not yet. At least not yet right now. 30 and a wake up says, I own Tesla since 2012, made me very wealthy. First time in my life, I'm thinking about selling it. This was my point in my Twitter post yesterday. And I was just astonished, bro. I was astonished. Like, I knew Tesla was a cult, but I was astonished at how many, I don't want to say names, but how many people out there could not believe that, yeah, there are people that are really annoyed about what's going on. And like this comment that we were seeing on the screen, I see this like 40 times yesterday underneath my post. But if you go to a Tesla cultist, it's like, no, all these people are stupid. And I was like, all right, dude, like you're just like not acknowledging though. There are some people that are not thinking the same way about this. You can call them stupid, but to deny that they're having a sentiment change is just like denying what a lot of people are saying. Robin at 7120, Tesla right here, 294. Again, I wouldn't sell before Robotaxi. I would just sell aggressive covered calls if I really, was annoyed. But I can't blame people for wanting to say, you know what, this is just a little bit too much right now. Especially because, again, the stock is not growing. The company is not growing. That's the bit. Like, you can complain about Palantir's valuation all you want, but they're growing 40%. Tesla's not growing. That's the issue. You are betting on future growth. And you're paying a hell of a premium for that future growth that, quite frankly, just isn't there yet and might not be there for the next couple of years. And that's why I think people are, more upset than anything, because you got Elon going, nuclear on Trump, then deleting the tweet, and then there's no growth at all. So, like, what is the stock trading on? It's trading on hype. That's it, which is fine. Tesla's always trading on hype, but at this point, it's literally just hype. There's not much else. And that doesn't mean the stock has to go to zero, but that also means that, some people might want to have a better place for that capital right now, which I think is not crazy to analyze if we're trying to be objective about all the different perspectives in the context of Tesla. Doug said he tried for NVIDIA. Dude, it got completely stuck at 144.99. Could not get above it. Maybe touched 145 on some exchanges, but could not get above there. SoFi's down on the day. Palantir 127.93. Meta's at 701. Where's UNH? UNH right here at 305. Currently right now, AMD still up 4%. Bitcoin over 108. All right, cool. So Bitcoin, there you go. Well, no, it touched just above 108 for a second, but it's back down to 107.7. That one probably helping Hood right now as well. All right, the Apple event today. That's gonna be the big one. That's gonna be a big one to see how the market thinks as well. Kevin bought some Oscar today. 30 and a wake up says, and I'm a Tesla cultist. Yeah, and again, like I have nothing wrong with being in a cult. That's a good thing for a stock, right? Like when you have a group of people that believe in one mission. But you gotta be objective about it, dude. Like, and I can definitively say in the Palantir community, although people are annoyed at this New York Times stuff, people are being pretty objective about the fact that this is not good for Palantir. Like, I don't think there's a single Palantir bull out there that's like, oh, it's great that the New York Times is accusing Palantir of creating an evil master surveillance database. Like, no, dude, that's not good for anybody. And it's like, and you got some Tesla bulls that are not even acknowledging that Elon saying Trump's on the Epstein list is not a good thing. It's like, maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe it's not the best thing in the world, And so I just think the acknowledgement of it is also important. What happened with Robinhood? They did not get into the S&P 500. No company got into the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 did zero rebalance. And unfortunately, that did not lead to Robinhood getting in. Tanner says, I was only able to buy 1.3 million shares. I'm sorry, guys. Tanner, need you to pump it up, bro. Let's get this sucker to 145. If we break above 150, I think we're going to have some fun. 152 is the all-time high, but we got to see if we can get there. Amazon just announced plans to invest $20 billion in Pennsylvania to expand its AI innovation and cloud computing infrastructure in the region. All right, there you go. More and more and more investments when it comes to data centers. Amazon 214, VRT is at 114, VST is at 172. Those are down on the day. Constellation Energy as well, up about 3% on the day. 1.3 million shares. He's talking about 1.5 million shares that are stuck at 145 that someone's got to buy. I think we get above it, dude. We're getting too close to fall back to like 142. Momentum's high, but we got to see. Maybe the Apple event pushes us over. Maybe Apple says something. What do you guys think Apple's going to say? Maybe Apple says something that gets the market excited. And like that helps Nvidia somehow. But we got to see. By the way, Warner Bros, they did a split today. Let's get a little bit of coverage on that. That stock up about 10% based on that news here.
That the company will be splitting into two. It's HBO Max streaming service and studio. That will be one company. It'll be led by CEO David Zaslav. And then there'll be a global networks company consisting of all the cable networks, in addition to things like the Bleacher Report, over-the-air networks in Europe, a number of other assets. That'll be led by the current CFO of the company, Gunnar Wiedenfels. And obviously not a big surprise, but you can see the reaction in the marketplace is nonetheless positive. It was May 8th when I had reported that such a split was going to be imminent, the company having taken any number of different measures to allow it to move down this road, although, again, it never said specifically that it was considering this. And my understanding is there were plenty of different structures that were under consideration and things that they might have done, but they feel as this is the right time, given the cost cutting and other things that have taken place, particularly at various levels in the company, and the right time as well to send its streaming/studio business out into the world as its own public company.
All right, so Warner Brothers getting a split today. WBD, that's up 8%. These guys have $70 billion in debt. That's, I think, why that's been one of the headwinds on the stock for the past couple of years. But it does make sense at this point because the stock was kind of going nowhere. So probably needed to do some readjustments. It'll be funny if Apple moves into AI glasses like Meta. I think that's fair, and I think they're working on that, but that's not going to be at WWDC. Apple's going to announce a new Siri update if they do today. That would be interesting. I really have no idea what Apple's going to announce. I know it's going to be an iOS update and like a Mac OS update, but that's nothing that's like super interesting, dude. Especially if it's not AI oriented. So we're not going to get any physical products. Maybe we get an upgrade on like the watch or something. And we're not going to get glasses. We're not going to get a new phone. So it's just going to be software. And if that software isn't really anything better than generative AI emojis, then, what is Apple going to show us at this point? I think is the broader question. They're going to announce that they suck. Dude, Apple is just a sad story. Now, shout out to Apple, though. My AirPod Max has stopped working. I went to the Apple store yesterday, and they're giving me a new one for free because I'm under the warranty. I didn't expect them to do that. I thought they were going to try to get some more money out of me. But that is really nice, so I'm appreciative of that. But that doesn't mean I'm buying the stock, bro. I just like anyone buying the stock here. My question is just, where's the growth story? What do you see? Because outside of look, if you buy Palantir, yes, is the multiple incredibly expensive? 100%. But there is a growth story. If you're buying Apple, forget the multiple, which is more tame than Palantir, obviously, but still, you're paying 32 times for something that's not growing at all. There is zero growth story. And don't point to services, because services is not a growth story. So then what's the growth story? Like Perplexity is going to have better AI searches than Google. And Apple's going to integrate with them. Like, what exactly are we buying here? And I think if we're just buying dividends and a buyback on the stock, if that's why you're buying it, then Apple should just increase the dividend yield. The dividend yield is like 0.05%. It should go to 3%. Do like a real dividend at this point. But if you're not able to grow the top line in the age of AI, then I don't know what's the most exciting thing about Apple. We're adding a 12th camera. Have you used Perplexity? I've used it a bit. One thing about Perplexity that's interesting, dude. The CEO said that they hit 780 million queries in May of 2025. They're going to get to 1 billion queries pretty soon, and eventually they're going to be getting to 1 billion queries a day. Now, Google does 5 trillion searches a year, so a little bit different, but still, like, those are 780 million searches that did not go to Google. And there's God knows how many searches inside of Grok and ChatGPT that also didn't go to Google. It's just a different headwind that Google's going to have to navigate. Now, again, is Google still cheap? 1,000%. But Google's going to have to figure out how to deal with the fact that if they're losing those queries, then they're going to have to monetize somewhere else. Google right here, 175, Amazon at 214 currently right now. Will you react to the Advancing AI 2025 AMD event? When is that event? Advancing AI. When is that event? That's also probably why the stock's pumping if they're having that event. June 12th. Yeah, I think we can stream that. Yeah, June 12th, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll stream that. That'll be this week. Advancing AI 2025. See how AMD is advancing AI across industries and get an inside look at the future of AI. All right, cool. So yeah, we'll stream that on Thursday. And we'll try to see if that's helping the AMD thesis as well. John says, I hold 86 shares of Apple before the event. Do they historically drop on these events? It's kind of mixed. The past couple events they've dropped, but then they've rallied the day after. So if you're trying to make a short-term move on this, it's hard because who knows? Maybe they announce something that blows their socks off and it's really good and the street pumps it to 215, 220. But the past couple months, the past 2 events, they have dumped. But again, the day after, they pumped. So I would probably hold tight. I wouldn't really make a move on this. I mean, I don't know. They would have to really mess up for this thing to go to like 190 off of an event like this. It would have to be really bad. And I would hope it's not, it's not that bad. You guys think Hood has a new promotion? Do they have a new promotion on crypto? Are they doing one? You guys think they're giving out 50,000 of crypto? I didn't see it, but if I see it, I'll let you guys know. I know they're doing the $1 million for the gold stuff, but I didn't see the crypto one where they're giving out crypto if you sign up or something. I don't see it on their, maybe it's on the app. I don't see it. They didn't tweet about it, but they're probably trying to find more ways to get people to bring their crypto over to the platform as well. Amit, would you ever buy AMD? Asking because I know you're an NVIDIA bull. I'm not against AMD at all, dude. I don't understand AMD as much as I understand NVIDIA. And realistically, I've started studying NVIDIA about 4 months ago. And I just think, there's not that much energy you have to commit to multiple companies in the same sector. So you kind of have to make your pick. And so I picked NVIDIA. The growth on NVIDIA is something as a growth investor I can at least understand at a higher level. AMD did say their data center revenue was going to be flat in Q2, which is why the stock was struggling after earnings. But I think in 5 years, AMD is a much bigger company than it is today, and so is NVIDIA. I just personally think it's an easier thesis to understand NVIDIA as the backbone of everything that's happening right now. Although they're getting rejected at 145, 144.22 now on NVIDIA. 50K of Bitcoin when you buy crypto on Robinhood. Okay, it seems like that's the giveaway. They're giving out 50,000 split between whoever buys crypto on Robinhood. I want to get the exact details on it because I don't see it yet. Where do you guys see it? Do you see it in the platform? Because I don't see it on the platform. And I don't see it on Twitter either, but I'll see if I can get the details on it. But that and the $1 million of gold they're giving away. Or $1 million of cash they're giving away if you sign up to be a gold subscriber. Oh, if you transfer crypto. Okay, good. That makes sense. Okay, cool. So if you transfer your crypto, you can be entered in to win 50,000 of Bitcoin. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, where's this Atlanta Fed update? We should be getting it like right now. Atlanta Fed. I believe it comes out at 11 a.m. 3.8%. Did they go down to 3.8? Okay, one chart I'm seeing says 3.8, but this might not be the most accurate one. I think it might be later in the day. What time does Atlanta? It's usually 11 a.m., right? What time does it come out? It might be later in the day. Okay, so I'm looking at 3.8, but when I get the new one, I'll give you guys. I don't think this is the one because 3.8 was 2 weeks ago. Then they went up to 4.6, and so I think this is not the So this we still got to wait on the Atlanta Fed one to see when that comes out. 1 p.m. Oh, you're right. It is 1 p.m. Yeah, Atlanta Fed is during the middle of the day. You're right. Okay, so when Apple goes live, then we'll talk about the Atlanta Fed one. My uncle in the chat, he just said he bought 100 shares of Hood. Okay, not bad. Does that mean I need to match him and I buy 100 shares right here? I think that means I need to match him. All right, here we go. 70.63. Let's do it. Boom. All right, there you go. 70.65. We're in. I guess we bought the dip. We didn't get the absolute bottom at 69 or 68.50 at one point, but we got in 70.65. I would not be surprised to see Hood to go back to 65, dude. I would not be surprised at all. But it's being pretty damn resilient right here in the 70s. Pretty freaking resilient. So 70.65. Just bought it right now. Tesla 295, Nvidia 144, Palantir 127. And we got to see if Hood can hold on to this $70 level. What do you think about Adobe earnings? I don't know. A lot of people think Adobe's undervalued, which I agree. It's not that exciting to me. In the age of AI, I feel like there's a lot of other opportunities here, but is it cheap? Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not cheap. And could it pump? Of course, it could pump. This stock was at $600 at one point. It's not, as an AI play, it's not the most exciting name that I want to be in. But I definitely think it could pump. Amit, why can't we do cash cleared puts on Hood at 65 for 620? I mean, you can. That's not I don't hate that trade. So June 20th. Yeah, it's paying $1.03 right now. I don't hate that. If you want to buy it at 65 and get paid $1 to wait another couple weeks. Yeah, that's not horrible. Look, the reason I'm buying stock right now more than selling puts is because I think we're in a bull market that already had the drawdown. So the reason I like buying shares and selling calls versus selling puts right now is because I don't want to miss out on the upside on share appreciation. And I think stocks are moving much higher towards the end of the year because we had a 20% drawdown. We had the worst of the worst news you could possibly think of. We went to 4,800 on the S&P. We lost 2 years of gains on the S&P in basically 2 days on April 8th. And we recovered, and earnings growth is good. You got a Chinese deal coming up, and you got rate cuts on the way. Like, all three of those things to me point that we're not seeing another 20% decline. We could see a 5% decline. Hell, we could see a 10% decline. But I don't think we are getting back to the lows that we saw on a Hood or an Nvidia or a Palantir anytime soon. And so that's why I'd rather be buying into this market. And I know it feels weird buying into this market because we've rallied so much over the past 2 months, but we also were never supposed to go down to 4,800 on the S&P. And so if we were never supposed to be there and we took a pit stop because of Trump's Liberation Day, and now we're right back to where we were basically in January, S&P is still flat year to date. It's up like 1%. Then I think as long as we have earnings growth momentum, we're going higher. And if we're going higher, then I want to buy back in. You are underestimating Trump killing the market. Maybe I am, but he also, dude, he took away 2 years of gains. Like, it happened already. Like, you guys really think that could happen again? It could. I just think it's unlikely, bro. Like, it's just unlikely to see that level of destruction in the markets again. He already got a ton of pushback. I mean, you had real Trump supporters that were, getting ready to vote Democrat because their retirement accounts dropped by 40%. Like, I don't think he wants to go back there. And this whole theory that he's crushing the markets to get bond yields to come down, which I thought there was a chance that theory could be true. Trump literally retweeted a TikTok kind of echoing the same statements. That didn't work. He tried, and then bond yields went up. So I think whatever plan he had, didn't work at the time. And from that perspective, it's hey, let's get the markets to be okay, and we'll figure out the bond market and the 10-year yields in a different way than crashing stocks. So I still think we're in a bull market. I think we have momentum. I don't think that necessarily means that we have to go back down to those levels. Palantir right here, 128, that's green. Nvidia 144, Tessie 296. Tessie making its way maybe back to 300, and then Meta at 700. We did get the New York Fed put out some inflation expectations. Let's get some coverage there, and then we'll keep going.
Inflation news. The New York Fed survey of consumer expectations says inflation expectations declined across all time frames. We went back and found that May marks the first month of across-the-board declines in inflation expectations since October 2024. Take a look at the data. One-year expectations down 0.4%. That's a healthy decline to 3.2%. The three-year down 0.2 to 3%, and the five-year down 0.1 to 2.6%. That's the lowest since March of 2024. These numbers are still a touch elevated, but not bad. You take them, given where we've been. And I think the Fed will be happy, especially to see the five-year so well behaved. Price expectations declined for gas, medical care, college, and rent, but they did rise for food to the highest level since October 2023. Could be a tariff impact in there. Earnings growth expectations up 0.2 to 2.7%, a touch below the long-run average. And unemployment expectations dropped, along with concern about the probability of losing one's job. The probability of finding a new job in the next 3 months was up 1.5 percentage points. So good inflation news, guys, is pretty good news on people's outlooks for their incomes and their jobs.
They're going to have a big debate next week at the Fed about what to make of these tariffs and whether they truly are inflationary, or whether, these signs that we're seeing of lower inflation is something they should lean into.
That's part of the debate. I think there's three options here, Sarah, if I'm not mistaken. It's not coming, it's already here, or it's coming later. And I think there's going to be a lot of folks that are going to be somewhat wary about declaring mission accomplished when it comes to tariffs and no inflation just yet. A lot of the commentary I'm reading thinks some of it is going to show up in May. They actually thought they saw whiffs of it in April, some of it in May, and maybe more of it in June. And even once you see it, there's this really vexing question of, is it one time or is it longer? I think that's why the market has the Fed price, Sarah, for not reacting until September.
Yeah, easiest thing to do is just wait it out.
Goldman today with their forecast for CPI, they do talk about some modest tariff effects, Steve, but I mean, we keep pointing to auto sales where you had a couple of big months of pull forward and then a huge 5% drop month on month.
Yeah, things are crazy. You have that, the pull forward, and there's the pull forward in the GDP data too, as you know, Carl. That pull forward created a surge of imports. That brought down GDP in the first quarter. That surge of imports goes away, so net trade is going to add in a big way to the second quarter GDP, and we may not have a clean read of what really happened in the economy until sometime in the third quarter. And then we want to watch consumer spending. We do have our retail monitor out the end of this week.
That's also why the Atlanta Fed projections aren't, you can't necessarily take them at their word, because until we get that third quarter data, given all the tariff volatility, we're not really going to know what's going on. This was the Wall Street Journal article this morning. Trump gives U.S. negotiators room to lift export controls on China. Ahead of U.S.-China talks in London, President Trump authorized Treasury Secretary Besant's team to negotiate away recent restrictions on the sale of a wide variety of technology and other products to China. And according to people familiar with the matter, this obviously screams NVIDIA today. It's a novel strategy underscoring the impact of China's rare earth controls on U.S. industries. The products covered by the recent U.S. restrictions, never publicly announced by the administration, include jet engines and related parts, which China tends to make its own commercial aircrafts, software required by Chinese companies to produce chips, and ethane, and a component of natural gas imported in manufacturing plastics, according to the people. So basically, if this is a trade between AI chips and rare earth minerals, that would be super bullish for NVIDIA. If the conclusion from today's meetings, based on what the Wall Street Journal here is reporting, is that NVIDIA gets to sell their chips back into the U.S. if we get a discount on rare earth minerals or better trade terms for rare earth minerals, which shows you how much leverage China has over us if that's what we're willing to exchange. But also, it shows that we've got leverage over them because they want our NVIDIA chips, and we're not giving them up unless we get a good reason for it. That would be good, bro. That's a win-win for both sides. I mean, that's what a negotiation is supposed to do. You're supposed to get a win-win. China wants AI chips. We want rare earth minerals. This is the easiest way for both sides to be like, yep, here's how we shake our hands and we agree. Like, we want this, you want this, boom, we're ready to go. And that would be a big win for the markets as well. Definitely a big win for the markets right here. ASTS having a great day as well. This one up 47% over the past week, up 13% today. Shout out to the Space Mob. There you go, 3509, up 12.4%. Again, Chris and I will do that stream on Wednesday. And we'll talk a lot more about it. eToro's pumping a little bit. The Apple event is in 2 hours. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern. eToro's up 9%. Yeah, that one's moving. Apple events in 2 hours. Again, guys, I will try to stream. Apple always shuts down the stream, so I don't have faith that they'll let me, but I will try. And if they do, then we will cover what's going on with Apple. Look at CHGG. Is this Chegg? Dude, Chegg. Okay, so Chegg got destroyed because ChatGPT, right? Like, I remember using Chegg in college. Chegg basically is this master, like, I guess you could call it compilation of homework and assignments that teachers use over and over again. And any question you typed into Chegg, like, dude, this is the most obvious example of AI getting rid of an industry. Like, if you had a homework assignment, like if you were doing your calculus homework and you know a teacher gave you an assignment and you typed in that question in Chegg, because all the teachers use the same assignments over and over again, you could get the answer immediately. But now with ChatGPT, you type in anything, you get an answer. Like, you don't need some database of files from some teacher from some other country that submitted it. And like, that's what Chegg did. They hoarded all that data and then they were able to charge you $15 a month to access it. Now with ChatGPT for free, you can get the answer to anything. So yeah, all of you guys, Chegg was so goated when I was in school. Chegg is awesome. It helped me with a lot of my economics coursework. Chegg helped me as well. Now, you know, one could argue that cheating on your homework is not necessarily being helped. It's being assisted in a in a more unethical way. But nonetheless, Chegg definitely played a role in my childhood. And now, you know, the new form of cheating essentially is ChatGPT. If you're a kid, you're not going to Chegg. You're going to ChatGPT for all the answers. It's called being resourceful. Exactly. So I'm surprised it's pumping right here. It could be pumping for any reason, but there's no point to invest in Chegg, dude. There's like no thesis. The story is done. Like, AI's just destroyed it. Absolutely destroyed it. All the information is available. All of it's been trained. Like, dude, kids these days in high school are growing up, and NVIDIA did all the hard work coming up with the GPU. OpenAI did all the hard work with figuring out how to train and fine-tune the models. All these kids have to do is type something in. They don't even have to pay for it. They don't have to freaking pay $20 a month. They literally just have to type whatever question they have and they get an answer. I mean, it is unbelievable, the age of AI that these kids are growing up in. But it's happening, and it's going to prove that there are some types of jobs and industries that just doesn't matter. If it was all based on memorization and regurgitation, and you have AI where being resourceful and creative is what matters, then, you know, that's just a new paradigm for all of us to engage in. You could also rent textbooks from Chegg as well. Yeah, and you know, now I imagine with ChatGPT, if you really needed a specific textbook, you can't get it from ChatGPT, but whatever topic you wanted to learn about, you have the world's like smartest AI to help you with any topic that a textbook could theoretically help you with. Now, obviously, you might still have to rent it because colleges, they make a lot of their money by getting people to rent these textbooks. But like, I don't know, dude. What are you going to learn in a textbook that you can't learn in ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok? I mean, all the information is already there. So it is just pretty damn incredible seeing this new world we are living in. AMD, that one is still green. We're getting some love right there. Tesla 295, trying to go back to 300. AMD 120. Pinterest right here at 34.49. Robinhood 71.18, holding on, and then Google 175. Currently on the day. Let's get an update on Apple and a little bit of a preview on what to expect from WWDC.
I mean, this is Apple Park, of course. And look, let's focus on AI. You mentioned tariffs. There are just other things that are as headwinds for Apple, but artificial intelligence, this was the coming out party for Apple Intelligence a year ago. And since then, we saw Apple kind of fail to deliver on that big promise it made. It was supposed to have that big upgrade to Siri. It's kind of answer to ChatGPT that was supposed to come out this spring. That's now delayed indefinitely. And the AI features that did come out largely overwhelmed, including that ChatGPT integration, which just isn't as good or as useful as what you would get with the regular ChatGPT app. So here are some things to start to look for as to kind of reset the narrative, or Apple's chance rather to reset the narrative. One is, what kind of deals can it make with artificial intelligence, whether that's through search or something else, in order to kind of fill in the holes that Siri has left behind. We've heard Eddie Q, the services boss, float around that they're talking to the search engine Perplexity as one answer. At this event last year, they talked about integrating Google Gemini. So that is one key thing I'm going to be watching. The other is this is a developers event. So what are they giving developers on the AI front that will help them make their apps more AI friendly, so to speak? There's a report out from Bloomberg a couple weeks ago that they're going to be able to tap into Apple's AI system to make apps for the iPhone. However, they're going to have to really make a case, guys, that their AI development tools are just as good or better than what you'd already get on ChatGPT. And then finally, with this Epic Games case that Apple's been losing, forcing Apple to allow payments on the web instead of through the App Store, this is also a chance for Apple to show the developer community that they're all in on them and that they can provide some better economics for them. Because if they lose the appeal with this Epic Games case, you're going to see a lot of people a lot of these developers who are in attendance today go towards those web payments and capture back some of that cut that Apple's been taking off the top of their App Store sales. So those are all the kinds of things we're going to be watching here, guys.
Yeah, that's a good point, Steve. You know, the Bulls still want to argue that it's less about their own killer app or killer model. It's more about being a gatekeeper. It's more about being a toll collector. Is there a hole in that argument?
Well, last year that was supposed to be the answer, right? The answer was supposed to be, let's do our own thing with Apple Intelligence and prove that we can kind of meet this AI moment. But as far as what developers can get, yeah, Carl, there's a lot of challenges there for them to convince developers to keep making stuff for the iOS platform. That includes those AI tools that they're going to be announcing, and also the fees. If any changes, I don't expect to hear changes to the fees, but if Apple loses its appeal that they're working through in the courts now, you can see a world in which they're going to have to start competing and lowering those fees and making those developers happy. Otherwise, they'll go somewhere else. We're seeing a lot of activity happening, Carl, on the web for these new innovative artificial intelligence apps. And this is a real big chance today for Apple to say, hey, come back to us. We're the best platform to experience artificial intelligence. And by the way, that boosts the App Store, that boosts the services revenue, which is really the key growth driver here at Apple. Their business has been really stuck on the iPhone front, on the hardware front. It's services that have been picking up the slack, and now that's under threat as well, Carl.
And the trade war. Is there any evidence, Steve, that the trade war issue,
yeah.
right, which Apple's squarely in the crosshairs of, is there any evidence that it has delayed either development of Apple Intelligence or rollout of Apple Intelligence in China?
There is, yeah. The Financial Times reported last week, Sarah, that it's being held up, the Apple Intelligence launch, which we were expecting to happen by now, was supposed to launch. We know they partnered with Alibaba. The chairman of Alibaba said as much. And then the Financial Times reporting that because of the trade war, the regulators over there in China are purposefully holding up the approval. Remember, if you want to launch an AI system in China, the government there, the regulators there, have to approve it first. That's why Apple's partnering with China's Alibaba in order to do it. But if with this trade war going on, that's just forget the tariffs for a second. That's another thing that gives Huawei a huge advantage because it's allowed to use its AI, and they're going to continue to eat into the market share until Apple has something over there that really appeals to consumers.
All right, that's a risk. Thank you, Steve Kovac at Apple HQ. For more, let's bring in Brian White. And
all right, folks, Apple, that's going to be the big one. That's going to be the big one today. I will go live at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we'll try to see what happens with Apple. Google right here, 175. Robin just below 71. Tessie, 293. NVIDIA, 143. NVIDIA, they're not giving us 145. They're not doing it yet. Palantir, 128. And Amazon, 214. Apple at 204 on the day. Where's Grab? Grab, I think, is just above 5. Dude, I'm not buying this shit that Grab said today. I'm just not buying it. I don't. There's too many rumors for them to say the parties are not involved in any discussions at this time and Grab has not entered into any definitive agreements. Now, granted, again, they said at this time. That's the quoting that they said at this time. There's a difference between saying, hey, we're not doing this versus we're not doing this at this time, because that easily you're able to legally get out of that terminology and say, hey, maybe not at this time, but in the future we'll look at it. Maybe it's opium here. But I'm not buying this stuff, dude. I'm not buying, and the reason I'm not buying it is because they have too much cash and they're not doing anything with the cash. Like, at the end of the day, you either have incompetent management that doesn't know what to do with their cash, which I just don't believe that. You can disagree, but like from my research, I think the company has a pretty strong grasp of what they're doing. Also, the insider selling is almost non-existent in this. Dude, 2024, there was a lot of, there has been like, they've sold like 4 times and it was like 60,000 shares. So to me, I think this is, they're not selling because obviously they think the stock's going to get higher, in my opinion, towards the end of the year, probably because there's going to be a catalyst. And they took advantage of a lot of selling last year. It didn't happen this year. I just think there's a lot of catalysts here for why this thing, or this saga continues. But ultimately, the street will help us figure out over the coming months. Trump did not tweet, by the way. For everyone saying Trump tweeted, Trump did not tweet. So at least I don't see any tweet from, I don't see any tweet from Trump yet. The last tweet he said was arrest the people in face masks now. 11 hours ago. So wouldn't Grab acquiring company make the stock drop because they're spending money? Yes, conventionally. But again, if Grab is able to buy GoTo, that is like, we're looking at 40 to 50% EPS growth. Like it's going to be a massive acquisition, massive deal, which is why I think they're trying to play down the rumors, because they don't want to get everyone's hopes up and get people thinking about it. And they want just time to negotiate on this. But maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know. We'll see. This is part of the journey. When you enter into a name that's asymmetric, you got to deal with these moments where, something might be happening or might not be happening or whatever. You got to be going from multiple directions on it. Ultimately, my conviction was never based on this acquisition, but I do think they're going to be doing this acquisition. Look, my thing is, I still think we get to $10 because the buybacks alone would reduce enough of the shares outstanding to be able to get us to $10. I mean, again, my thesis was always 800 million of adjusted EBITDA by 2026 with 8 billion in cash. They have 6 billion in cash. If they use that to get rid of a couple 100 million shares, then the numbers still work out the way I want them to work out. The big thing is, can they get to 800 million of EBITDA by 2026? Right now, they're going to do about 480 million. I think that's probably going to be closer to 515 million by the end of the year. 800 million of EBITDA, 30% growth in 2026. That's not crazy to me. And that easily gets you to $10 if you have 8 billion in cash. And they have 6 billion in cash. Again, if they don't get 8 billion in cash, that means they're buying back their stock. If they're buying back their stock, you reduce the number of shares outstanding, you still get to $10. But if they don't buy back their stock and they don't do the acquisition, then there's an issue, because it's like, what are you doing with the cash? And I just don't think that I think it's pretty obvious in the next 6 months, we're going to find out what they're doing with the cash. Either it's an acquisition or it's buybacks. And I'm leaning towards acquisition because they didn't buy back a single share last quarter and their stock dropped to $3. You would think you would buy. So there's got to be something else going on, but over the coming months, we'll see. They should just buy Bitcoin instead. Yeah. I mean, look, they would not do that because they're a small company, but I wouldn't hate if they buy some Bitcoin. I just don't think that's the route they're going. I think $7 by the end of 2025 is more my target, and then 10 by 2027. So that's 750 range is where I think is currently fair value. Okay, so that's what we have on Grab. I think, all right, guys, so I think we're going to end it there. We'll be back in about 2 hours for Apple. Tesla right here at 294, NVIDIA 143, Palantir 128, Robin at 7126, and then Apple 204.80. I have no idea what to expect. I'm going to put this poll in the chat before we leave on pump or dump on Apple. I think it could also stay flat. That definitely could happen. But I'm not too excited for this event. By the way, 71% of you said Tesla's going lower from here on the last poll. Apple today, pump, dump, or flat? What do you guys think? If I had to guess, I would say dump. Just because I think they're whatever they show to the street is going to be lackluster, and street's going to be upset that these guys aren't really innovating. But it doesn't really have to do much today at all. So there you go. Do you think will Apple have a better run than Google after their event, or worse? I think worse than Google. I mean, Google actually showed off stuff, even if the presentation was kind of boring. They actually showed stuff. Apple's just, I don't think we're gonna have anything to show. I mean, how much Grab do you own? I own a lot of options. I own basically 100 grand of it. So I own like 10 grand of the 75 or the $7 call for December 2027. And I own 85 grand of the 7.5 $10 call debit spread for January 2027. So basically basically $100,000 position. Most of it is in options. I mean, I will be buying more of this. I think I have 1,000 shares of the stock, but I'm not in it for just the stock. I'm in it for the asymmetry on the option side. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be right. But the fun part about having conviction when it looks like you shouldn't have conviction is that if it ends up working out, there's some pretty big gains on the other side of it. So we'll be tracking this saga over the coming years and see how this plays out. NVIDIA right here, are we getting a little bit of a dump? We are getting a little bit of a dump on NVIDIA from 5% up to only up 4%. Unfortunately, we cannot break through 145. And now the Jensen GTC event in Paris is going to be the next catalyst here. Okay, word of the day. What do we got? Word of the day. Back in the studio again. Thank everybody for being here. Someone said, Amit, I'm happy you're back with the bricks. I'm happy I'm back with the bricks as well. It's been way too long. For the next 3 months, we will be back in the studio. And we're not going to be doing any traveling. Oh, wow. This is a good one. Carillon or Carillon. Carillon. A set of bells hung in a tower and played using a keyboard or pedals. I saw bells and I got excited. The Carillon rang out a Bach fugue. What the hell is that? With each voice played on a distinct set of bells. The campus's Carillon hadn't been played in decades until it was restored last year. What is a Bach fugue? What is that? What is a Bach fugue? A Bach fugue is a musical composition built upon a subject that is introduced in one voice and then imitated or repeated by other voices in a polyphonic structure. Okay, I had no idea. I had no idea that was the case, but there you go. A Bach fugue. Happy 30th birthday, Amit. It's not my 30th yet. That's in about 2 years. I'll be 30 in 2027, but I will be turning 28 in October. So I will be turning 28. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. A Carillon. What does this thing look like? What does this look like? Oh, this is what it looks like. Interesting. All right, so it's a set of bells. We all know about that. We all know about that on this channel. Got to ring the bell today again. I wanted to ring it for 145, but we couldn't ring it. But there you go. Those are some bells. Damn, Amit, your Unk status is 28 Unk. Is 28 in Unk at this point? I mean, I guess it is. I guess it's close to 30 at that point. But it is what it is. We're growing older. We're growing older. And hopefully growing wiser and all that stuff and getting all that wisdom, all that stuff they talk about when you get older. Hopefully we can embrace all of that as well. All right, cool. So that's it. I will be back at 1 p.m. So in about an hour and a half. We'll see if Apple lets me stream it. Don't be surprised if they shut down the stream because it's Apple. I don't know why they would want to shut it down. Like it's free marketing for them, but it's freaking Apple. So hopefully they let us stream it, and then we'll see what happens with Apple today. Someone says it's their birthday today. Ryan, it's your birthday. All right, shout out to you. Your 30th. Thank you for being here on your 30th. We did the calendar yesterday night. I will be 30 on a Wednesday on a market open. So I will be here in 2 years on a market open Wednesday morning, and I'll be turning 30 years old. So I'll be with you, everybody. It was also someone's birthday, someone's 50th last night. They were in the chat on the Sunday Future Show. So it means a lot, dude. The fact that you guys are watching the show on your birthday and it's just part of your day, it's super cool to me. And it's just, I hope that, the whole community is a welcoming environment for everyone on a day like their birthday. The thing about in Japan, I love it, dude. Awesome. The thing I love about birthdays is yes, you're technically you're getting older, and I think George Lopez, he said this one, you're getting closer. It's a year closer to death, right? That's essentially what a birthday, you're a year closer to death. However, the way my mom has framed birthdays has always been to like make it the most special day ever. And ever since I was little, bro, my mom would like find a way, like some of you guys probably had this experience, but like you'd be in middle school and it's sixth grade, it's your birthday, you're turning 12 years old. And then boom, your mom walks in with all these cupcakes and balloons, and it's a party. And instead of learning math for those 40 minutes, your mom already talked with the teacher to set up a surprise birthday party. Like my mom really went out of her way to do that stuff when I was little.
She did that also when I was in high school, my senior year. And, she always made sure I felt special on my birthday. And so if it's ever anyone's birthday in the chat, just let me know. And hopefully I get to just highlight it, because regardless of getting older, I think all of us should be embracing the fact that we're even alive. We're live and we're alive. And that we get another chance to do this thing called life, because eventually it's going to be over. So every day, I think it's a blessing to even be able to, enjoy it. Eric says my parents could not give a fuck about my birthday. Dude, okay. So my dad didn't care, but my mom really cared. Again, my dad, not as creative, bro. My dad would like just give me $100, be like, hey, happy birthday. My dad doesn't give a shit. My dad does not like birthdays, but my mom really makes it a big deal, and ironically, that has taught me, like, we threw her a surprise birthday dinner in December, and we invited all of her friends and all this stuff. And it was like a really good surprise. Like, she had no idea what was happening. But the only reason I even want to go through the work of like trying to set that stuff up is because of how much she taught me when I was younger, that birthdays do matter. So I still think it's still important at the end of the day. The Underworld reporter says it's my birthday. Shout out to you. Happy birthday. And then happy birthday to the gentleman from Japan who's watching for their 30th birthday as well. My mom's birthday is December 22nd. December 22nd. All right, cool. That's it. I will be back in an hour and a half. I hope Apple lets us do the stream. If not, it is what it is. And yes, there will be a market close today as usual. For the next 3 months, there will be a market close every single day. I mean, we're going to do a market close regardless, but there's going to be no traveling, so there's going to be no interruptions for the market open, market close. And we'll keep going every day. My parents sent flowers to my job. Embarrassing, but also fun. Yeah, but see, like, it's embarrassing always, but it's also like, it just shows that, like, they care. They're showing you a gesture of the fact that you should embrace your birthday. And so I've always thought about that as well. Did Atlanta Fed just come out right now? Did it come out right now? It's supposed to come out at 1 o'clock, dude. If it came out right now, let me update that. If that's 3.8, then that means that they went down from 4.6. Let's see. Did they come out with it? Yeah, they came out with it. There you go. 3.8. All right, there you go, guys. Atlanta Fed 3.8. Probably not having that much of an impact on the market. I thought that was going to come out a little bit later. I guess 11:30 is when it comes out. There you go. June 9th, 3.8%, down from 4.6, which they had last time, but still 3.8. So, dude, if we grow 4% in the United States of America, this is going to be a bullish market. If the United States of America can grow anywhere near 4%, you want to be invested. Like, you just want to be invested. Granted, I think that's going to be hard to pull off, but maybe the pro-growth policies from Trump actually lets us get us there. But if that happens, that would be very bullish. We are seeing some momentum right here. Palantir 129, NVIDIA 143, Hoodie 7150, Google 175, S&P just below 6,000 right here. So that could be something that helps the broader markets today. All right, cool. That's it. I'll be back at 1 p.m. for the Apple event. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Love you all. See you guys in about an hour and a half. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.